to the Making Up the Numbers podcast. The Making Up the Numbers podcast is sponsored by Hope Technology, J-Tech Suspension, Revolution Bike Park, Ride Southern Spain, Schwal, and the world's finest independent mountain bike magazine, Singletrack.
World Cup downhill racing is back, and what a start to the season. Some incredible racing in Lenzerheide and Leogang, and we're going to break it all down for you in the next few minutes. Then we'll be chatting with Canyon Collective FMD's Tahnee Seagrave, before wrapping up the show with our favourite Brazilian, Roger Viera. He'll be joining us for a new feature called Prova to Your Life. But the first thing we need to talk about was the incredible news that broke after qualies at Lenzerheide, with Jack announcing his retirement at the end of the 2023 season, which was news to all of us, Amy?
Yeah, actually, the first time I heard of it was when I wrote the script. So I don't know what I was doing in Lenzerheide, probably too many things. But yeah, so cool to hear that, Jack, and congratulations from me as well.
Yeah, big news, mate. What prompted the decision?
Well, I'll keep it fairly brief. But I thought about retiring last year, struggling with a shoulder injury for a couple of years, and I'd kind of lost the love for racing at the top level. And towards the end of the season, chatting with Steve, Jordan Williams' dad, who does our sports psychology stuff for the team in the Gravity School, I decided that I still was loving it towards the end of the year and wanted to have another run at it this year. So I stayed in, and I'm extremely glad I did. But I was also very aware that with the changes that are happening, it's, they're making the sport much more kind of small at the top, with fewer riders able to do finals. And it looked like it was going to go more that way in the coming years. So I was behind closed doors. I'd said to Sarah and a few of my close friends that this was potentially going to be my last season. I hadn't fully made the decision. I had said to people, if I had a great year this year and loved it, then I'd obviously keep going. But we got to Lenzerheide, and after a really good pre-season with obviously the good Portugal Cups that we've talked about and riding well again, honestly, I got to Lenzerheide, and after watching junior practice, I didn't want to fucking be there. Literally,
really?
I had a fucking meltdown on Thursday. Like, I didn't want to be on my bike. And whenever I was on my bike, I was fine. Whenever I actually got on and rode a section, I'd be like, I got that good. I feel good. But the act of going into a section, I just couldn't relax. And it's watching the juniors, we'll probably talk about this later, but they're so sketchy and they're so erratic that it obviously just highlighted to me how much risk is involved. And so Thursday I struggled. That's the message there, which is practice day. And then I had a word with myself, worked on some of the stuff I've been doing with Steve. I knew what I was doing, but I just couldn't stop on Thursday. I couldn't stop talking myself out of it. Went out with a different head on my shoulders on Friday, did 4 runs, absolutely loved it. Went into quali just open-minded, and rode my legs off. Like, I gave it absolutely everything. My mindset going into quali was just do my best, what'll be will be. That is not what happened when I left today. I went at it like I'd stole the bike off someone who wanted to kill me. So my run was really sketchy, and I crossed the line to look back to see I'd gone into 44th, which held out for 47th quali. And I just, as soon as quali was over, I just instantly was like, I'm done. And the reason for it was I enjoyed getting to the bottom and seeing I'd qualified, but I wrote down what it was. I was only safe, and by safe I mean I was 47th, and 61st was only 1.2 seconds behind me. I made 3 mistakes, 1 more mistake, and I would have been out. So all of that risk, and I wouldn't have been able to go into the next day. So it just highlighted to me that I'm not seeing it as Dan does. Obviously I work very closely with Dan, and the head on his shoulders is very much like the one that was on mine when I was in my 20s. And I don't see it like that anymore. So yeah, it was basically, I was like, I'm going to enjoy this season for what it is. And it was a weight off my shoulders, and off the back of it, I rode so much better the next day, went faster and had a good finals result, and then enjoyed Leogang. And so, yeah, I'm super happy with the decision. And 14 years of racing World Cups is going to come to an end, which is obviously, as Emmy knows, it's sad, but yeah, that's what it is.
You've obviously got a lot lined up. Are you excited for the future?
That's the other thing. I'm not just an athlete anymore. I'm a coach. I'm a business owner. I'm a kid at home now, and lots of other things going on. And there has been pressure to retire for a few years from other kind of things that are going on in my life. So with all the risk that's involved in what we do with racing World Cups. So So yeah, loads going on. The gravity school's going to get bigger. We're going to run more coaching camps abroad, more in the UK, and I'm still obviously going to be racing nationals. And I may even pitch up on a bike at a World Cup if we have a rider next year who wants me on track with them. Then I might be there in practice, like some of the boys are doing. But my own competitive racing at World Cup level will end at the end of this year.
Well, it's been an incredible 14-year career. Congratulations to you on that. And we'll do a proper retirement 20 questions at the end of the season.
Thanks.
So before we get into the racing, let's talk about the changes and get your thoughts on them. So let's start with juniors, who now have a practice session on the afternoon of track walk, quali the following day, and their race the day before the elites, which is broadcast live. From a spectator's point of view, it's fantastic. The juniors are getting a lot more coverage. You've both got junior riders that you're looking after. What was it like on the ground for your guys?
Well, I think Jack said it. Like the first practice session in Lenzerheide was quite something.
I'm never watching.
You're lucky because you can get out of it, but I had to film the guys, so I'm there all along, and yeah, it was like crazy how fast they were going straight out of the gate, and I guess also the top of Lenzerheide was really, really fast, maybe too fast. We can talk about that later, but yeah, it was literally like for the two riders that we have, Dane and Ryan, they nailed it with the first weekend of World Cup. Obviously, they were real nervous. It's the first time for them that they're competing and at that level, but they handled it well. They had a couple of crashes, but nothing major. So yeah, I was really proud of them how they handle everything. But yeah, like definitely happy about that new format for the juniors that they raced the day before and can have a show. Yeah, so I think it's a really good thing. It adds up a little bit of stress to the schedule to like get everything done, but I think definitely good for them.
Yeah, I agree. The only other thing I should say is watching them from my perspective as a rider, I have my own process that I want to go through when I'm going to go and race that World Cup. And for me in Lenzerheide, watching them attack that track exactly the same way as I would have done at that age. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it. It just wasn't good for me to see. But yeah, all credit to them. Like there was some amazing riding going on. Like shout out to Ryan Pinkerton, like the pace he was going by third lap. Like, I think he probably then slower throughout the weekend just because he'd gone out so hard. He was on like race winning lines from the get-go. So some of the fire we saw from those guys was cool. And yeah, I think the schedule is a good change for them.
Cool. Next, we have the introduction of semi-finals, which again, broadcast live. This was probably the most contentious issue during the off-season. But again, as a fan, it's brilliant. There's almost too much racing to watch now. How's the semis gone down with the riders?
Well, I'll kick us off if that's all right, because I saw this question in the script and I thought, well, for me and for Dan, people need to understand that the schedule is exactly the same because in Lenzerheide and Leogang, neither of us made it through to the final. So we still did first day practice. We still then did more practice the next day in the morning and then did quali. In Lenzerheide, we then went through and did practice in the morning and then the semi-final, which is in old money, the old final. So it was exactly the same for us. So I can't really answer your question. So I thought rather than guessing what the other guys thought of it, I'd kind of reach out to a few people. So I've had response from Bruni, and he's responded by a message. So I'll just read it out. He said, yeah, semis are just making it really busy on race day. When you do well in semis and starting at the end of finals, it's quite okay. I thought it would be more hectic time-wise. It's still intense and really demanding, but there is time to get ready and recover. It's also mentally tough as you can't really calm down and regroup from the semis. But in the end, the first two tracks were fairly chill physically, so it worked. And as he points out here, also no mud. We will see when things aren't so smooth. He says he likes it for the spectators all day racing. He does then go on to say he feels exhausted after 2 weeks of back-to-back racing and the new format isn't easy. His final point was that for people watching at home, maybe people agree, maybe they don't, there may be too much to watch. he said, like, if you want to watch it all, it's fucking up your whole Saturday. And then he put a laughing face. So he kind of said he maybe feels like it's quantity over quality. And then I kind of had a little comment back, and he agreed that the semis and final is almost just a repeat because, as you've mentioned later on, George, there doesn't seem to be too much stuff happening that's different in the finals. The speed's already set. So that was Loic's thoughts. Had a few responses from some other people. Thibaut Deprella, he says it's really cool. Finals day is hard. It's you have to go fast in the semis to get the points, so you can't like ease up there. He does mention protection and says there's only 10 protected into the final, so it makes the semis quite hard if you're not protected, because it's quite a risk to try and compete for those points. The GOAT, Greg Menard, has sent me quite a few voice notes that I've condensed down, so I will rip through some of the really good points he's made. Greg said it is hard on a rider, it's tougher and it's more physical. He does like that it's great for the fans at the race. There's more for them to watch. On a Friday, they get the quali and the junior finals, and on a Saturday, they get the semi and the final, whereas before they were pitching up and just watching a bit of practice and then one timed run. He goes on to talk about how the racing's extremely tight, which makes it tough on a rider and a little challenging. He mentioned the 6-second split in the semis. On a track that fast, there's very little to separate the guys, and one mistake, which happened to Dan, my teammate. He was 31st in Lenzerheide, missed out by 0.1. You're out of that final show. He goes on to talk about how it's a good way of reducing the field to 30, which he feels is important. And the example he used is he feels that whole run needs to be shown on TV, because Andreas Kolb qualified first and then was first in the semi-final in Lenzerheide, crashed out at the top of finals. None of us saw it. So at the moment, the TV package doesn't show you an incredibly important part of the weekend. The commentators could have been showing that replay and showing the crash and talking about what's happened while Andy rolled down, whereas at the time they didn't even spot he was dirty. The guys on the ground with the microphone, not the guys on live. I didn't see the live because I was obviously there. Had Danny Hart on. He says he enjoyed it. He liked it. He said he did find some things strange. One thing he mentioned was he found it weird that when he was waiting to go up for semis, he was watching what in his head was going to be the women's final, but it wasn't. It was the semi-final. So he said he found that strange, like repeating itself. But he didn't present that as a negative. He said in Leogang, he had a poor semis, and that gave him a 35 to 40 minute turnaround between his semis and going up for finals. He said he stayed in his kit. He had to have a quick bit of food. He didn't cool down, and he had to shoot up for finals. He said he kind of found that all right because he never cooled down, but he did mention that was a dry track, and if it had been wet or there'd been a problem with the bike, he said his mechanics would have been really up against it. Last one I believe that I've got to share with you is Valley Hall, and I can read hers out quite short and concise. I really enjoy the new format for now. You have to keep it together for the whole day. If you have a shit day, then you have 2 shit runs, laughing face. Fans really enjoy watching more racing. For the future, it would be cool to get a podium for semis and prize money. I think that covers everybody who came back to me.
Cool. Well, thank you for doing that. That's great.
No worries.
Yeah, he has all my work cut out. The vice president of the association had nothing else to say.
Yeah, well, I was like, I'm just going to guess what they're thinking. I'll just ask some of them. So
no, but actually, there was a lot of kickback because of semi-final previous of the season start, and now that it started, I think the riders really are sometimes positively surprised by it. I would say like someone like Ronan Dunn, for example, I talked to him and he was like, he loves it because he loves riding. So he kind of rides all day now. He has like less time waiting for his run, which is a positive. Like you said, Loic and Finn, I think you need to be a bit more consistent. So it goes a bit in their favor, especially Loic's. And Finn has to keep it together more, so maybe it's less all or nothing, for him.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'll say I can tell you what Cami thinks about it and how she feels. I think it also goes on in favor because she's a very constant rider, but The physical aspects, I think, is a little bit different for women than for men. I feel like a lot of girls are a little bit worried when the longer tracks are going to come, because obviously they'll spend more time on the track too. So yeah, especially you cutting the field down from 15 to 10. So that was kind of Danny's point, like, oh, I thought I was watching the final, but it was the semis because it's only 5 riders difference, you know? So the whole point of semis is cutting down the field, right? Like from 60 to 30. And you're only cutting down the field from 5 riders. So the ladies in general, like kind of like also thinking, why is semi there for us? You know, like, does it make sense?
Yeah.
Can we just not have 15 in finals? You know, like it's just like, that's what ladies wonder to go to start with.
Yeah,
it's not 15 in final. They could have gone the other way and given 20, 25 of these ladies a chance to race semis, because this is the other big semis. Is the whole thing is televised. So that's great.
Yeah.
Right. So if there were,
but that was the thing. Like, if some people are say, oh yeah, like Lenzerheide and Leogang were kind of alright, but what about Val di Sole? Like, how's it going to be?
Well, I think
because the track is the most physical out there. If it rains, like, I don't know, it's like risking your life 3 times in 1.5 days. Mentally and physically, it's going to be tough. So I guess we'll find out after Val di Sole. It's generally positive, but there are some stuff that we can still like question.
Yeah. And do you know World Champs in Fort William? I presume that's not going to have a semi and that's just going to be traditional World Champs format. Yeah. Right. Okay. What I thought was noticeable in Leogang, and you touched on it a minute ago, Jack, was that the semi is almost like another level of filtration. So in finals, it felt like every rider that came down was going just that little bit faster than the rider before them. We didn't have one rider coming down early who was in the hot seat for 20 riders, which as a viewer was quite good. It added a bit more excitement. I think Andy Cole might have been the person who sat longest in the hot seat. And I think did he come down 9th, maybe 9th, something like that. Did you guys notice that then? That it was
sure. I mean, it's because there's points all the way through that semi-final. You've got the top boys pushing for the points, and by the top boys, I mean like those 10 or 15 guys who are thinking they can either win or podium.
Yeah.
And behind that, you've got this block of riders that Greg actually mentioned in one of his voice notes, where between like 20th and like 50th, you've only got like a 3 to 4 second window where everybody on their day can be inside that top 30. So everybody's pushing like hell in there. And if you make a huge mistake, you're going to be out. So it's irrelevant. So it sets that pace. Everybody who qualifies they've pushed like mad and they've had a good run from the semis through to the final. So when they come down in the final, I mean, Joe Breeden's a good example. Like, Joe's coming back from injury and trying to you can read from his Instagram post that he's just taking it step by step. So he's qualified. He's got through from the semis into the final and done really well. But you can see from his times, he was never going to particularly improve that far. I think he was 2 seconds adrift at the back of the queue in that final.
3:09, I think he was, but that was he was within a couple of tenths of his seeding run.
Yeah, and then in front
seeding
of
him, semi run. Sorry,
2 seconds maybe in front of him before there was any more spots. So that's a prime example of like he'll have gone into that, and I don't know, I haven't spoken to him, but potentially thought, well, there's 28 points to pick up here for coming at the back anyway. So this is great. I've had a great weekend. I can keep building. Why take huge risks to potentially still finish 30th?
Yeah,
that makes sense, because that would have been my approach in Lenzerheide. I finished 37th in the semis, and if I'd been 0.9 faster, I would have gone through to the final. And I had a great semis run, so there's no way in that final run I would have been taking any mad risks. I would have been like 30th sound. Cheers, thanks for coming.
I get it.
I think the only exception to that is maybe people that are not protected for final, and then they'll just like maybe take a little bit more easy in semis because they know they can get in. Like Bernard was an example; he wasn't protected. And he did cruise a little bit his semis and got 28 or 27, so I remember. So that was like a little bit crazy. But Roland Dunn as well, like he was not protected, if I'm correct, for the final, and then he pushed really hard. And he got like probably the guy that improved the most from his semis to his final result. So yeah, there's sometimes a little bit of exception with protection, but otherwise, yeah, it's cool that there's not a rider that just like out there and it's not gonna perform. So it's pretty like goes crescendo to the end, which is cool.
Yeah, that's cool. One of the major concerns from the rider's point of view was how the extra race might increase the number of injuries. And we saw a lot of injuries in Lenzerheide. Some of the high-profile ones, Aaron Gwynn with a broken elbow, Amory Piron, C5 vertebrae fracture, Jenna Hastings, your girl Emmy, broken wrist and finger, Luke Mayer-Smith, broken collarbone and concussion, Henry Kerr, spinal injury, Ben Cathro, spinal injury. Wishing all those riders and any others who've broken themselves a speedy recovery, and a big shout out to Iago Garay, who's currently recovering from a brain aneurysm. Most of the injuries sustained in Lenzerheide were sustained in practice, and it didn't seem as bad in Leogang. So was this just first race of the season, everyone's keen, or do you think the riders felt more pressure to go faster sooner because of the new schedule?
Possibly a little bit of both. Like, it's so competitive now, and you get such a limited amount of time on the track. Like, we arrive at the event on either the Monday or the Tuesday, and you do nothing for a couple of days. Like, you drift around, you talk to people, you do whatever you're doing. And then all of a sudden, at 12 o'clock on a Thursday, you have to get on your bike and go fast, because you get 3.5 hours practice, where we've got 6 runs, both at Lenzerheide and Leogang. In Lenzerheide, we tried to get 7, and with that having a few dramas with mechanicals and stuff, it wasn't possible. So by the end of that first day, you need to be up to a fairly decent speed. So in 6 runs, you've got to make that happen. That's with fairly short turnaround between the laps. You've barely got time to even watch your GoPros or kind of chat with your mechanic. So the point I'm making is we're almost rushed to go fast.
Yeah.
And that can lead to people being offline or making mistakes. So, I mean, some of it could be that we're under such pressure to be up to speed quickly that we then make mistakes.
Yeah, for sure, I agree with that. The thing that I think in Lenzerheide was also a little bit of a problem is the way the track was kind of laid out. I've talked with some of the guys, Swiss guys as well afterwards. I don't think the track has been worked on. Like, it's been groomed and stuff, but like it hasn't been worked on in a few years. Like, some of the berms are like completely like raw. It's good for walk-up track, but like the first road crossing claimed, I don't know, 2 or 3 people that had spinal injury there on the same spot because the speed into that road crossing or like the compression before was too high and the guys were like had to brake.
Yeah.
So this is really hard to predict. Like, I walked the track before track walk, and like it's really hard to predict, but there's a tendency we saw in Leogang as well that the tracks are getting faster and faster, and by faster I mean shorter for the broadcast.
Yeah.
You know? So the tracks are coming to a limit in the sense of they're very raw. Leogang, all the jumps are too small. And so people are just going the speed that the track allows, but the track is like almost like it's not adapted to the speeds of the guys anymore.
Yeah.
So this is something that is a little bit concerning for me, for the riders, because they like to go fast. They love to scrub jumps, like, you know. But then at the end, it's going to claim some people along the way, and maybe to make the tracks more technical again, will maybe save. Like, if you have a crash, then you just don't crash as hard if you're going 50 kilometers downwind, you know. So
yeah, I mean, you could see loads of people over jumping those jumps in Leogang.
Yeah, and there was backwind. As soon as there's a backwind, people, you can't control that, but usually in Leogang there's wind from the west, and that's going to be a backwind. So that's mostly the case. And Angel Suarez really hurt his calf, like over jumping the second wooden table. And people didn't know what to do. Luckily in the finals less tailwind, so it didn't really affect. And if it would have been wet, there would have been no problem. But the layout of the track and the way it was also like with the poles and everything, there's a tendency to try to make it shorter in time. So people just go faster.
Yeah.
Lenzerheide was probably, except the start, is exactly the same track as last year. Last year was dry as well, and then it's 3.2 kilometers an hour faster average.
Whoa.
So that's like, to me, it's shocking, you
That's
know?
fast, yeah, that's a big difference.
So Leogang was also faster, but not as much. And the track was also kind of straighter. But yeah, it is something I'm going to watch this year and see how it evolves. But you can just like try to make the track straighter to make it go faster. Like, I don't think it's a good tactics at all.
No. It looks like both Aaron and Amory are out for the season. You have to feel for them both. Just a few weeks back, Aaron told us he was ready and he was looking to pull up some trees this season. Amory, possibly his best ever chance to win Worlds. It's a cruel sport at times, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure. And that's kind of what I was talking about at the beginning, like the risks we're taking, whether you're one of the riders who's pushing to win or whether you're one of the riders like me in the mid-pack battle for trying to get your top 20 or whatever you're trying to get. Like you're pushing yourself to your absolute limit on a push bike down the mountain. So yeah, you feel for those guys and all the others that are injured and wish them all speedy recoveries and try and stay positive because it's shit.
Well,
yeah, I talked to Amory's parents a little bit in Leogang, and it's not easy, you know, like they have 3 sons and they all had been going through like multiple spinal injuries, the 3 of them. Yeah. And other stuff, concussions, back injury, like whatever. So, yeah. And the father as well is like, yeah, he's tired of seeing these tracks going faster and faster, and he's talking with his heart, you know, and that's like something that's it's a bit hard to witness.
Yeah. The other contentious issue was protection, which I think is still a bit contentious. Jack, I know there were issues in Lenzerheide, which I think related to Taylor Vernon. Is that right?
Yeah, I think it's maybe me and Emmy have discussed it. And I think it's potentially one of those things that's just been an oversight, but I'll run you through it briefly. So if you qualify 58th and there are 3 protected riders that need to use their protection to go through to the semi-final. You've had a great run, come 58th. Those 3 protected riders means that there are now 63 riders taking part in the semi-final, which was the all-final. And in that, the points run down to 60th, where 60th gets 1, 59th gets 2, 58th gets 3. So let's say that same rider who was 58th comes 58th again in the semi-final. But wait a minute. Those 3 protected riders have beat him this time, and they're going to push him back into 61st. Now, those 3 points are now none because 61st doesn't get any points. But it was 3 points. Yeah, you're not getting a reward for racing your semi-final, but it's 3 points. It's probably not going to make a huge difference. That is fixable as well, and you could extend that 1 point that 60th gets. You could extend that all the way through the 60th, through all of the protected, to say there's 5 protected riders, extend it down to 65th. Anyone below 60th gets 1 point. Now, what happens in the final is 30th gets 28 points, I believe.
Yeah.
28 might be wrong, but I think it's 28. If there are 1 or more protected riders that go in there and you finished 31st, you get no points. So you may have a great run in finals. You may have qualified 29th in the semi-final, go through to finals, have a great run, improve your time by a second, take all that risk, finish 31st, you get fuck all. Thanks for coming, but you don't get any points because the points will only go to 30th and the protected riders that are put in there. And this is what happened in Lenzerheide. Taylor Vernon qualified 24th or wherever he qualified in the semis, went through to the final. Greg had a puncture. His protection carried him through. Greg punctured again in the finals, and you could see him pushing all the way to the line on his flat tyre because he obviously knew what was going on. There's some points here for grabs. Taylor crashes. Taylor finishes behind Greg, and one of them gets points and one of them doesn't. So I think it's very easy to fix. You just extend those points down all the way through the 30s, 27 for 31st, 26 for 32nd, and it doesn't matter. They're dishing out double points. So how far the double points go down makes no difference. So I spoke with Taylor and his dad about it in Leogang, and they were furious. They're privateers. They're spending a lot of their own money to go racing. And Taylor's dad was obviously really angry. Not with Greg, just with the system. So yeah, I think that's something that Emmy and the team in the union need to raise, because it didn't happen in Leogang. There were only 30 of them, and Danny was disqualified, so that meant Joe was 29th. But obviously in Lenzerheide that did affect one rider. So
you guys did well in Lenzerheide, Jack. And Dan came away with 31st, just missing out on finals, and you placed 38th. Or was it 37th? Sorry, 37th.
37th, yeah, because Ethan was disqualified for, I'm not sure why, I'm assuming it was crossing one of those poles, but yeah, so 37th.
It was, yeah, it was. He disputed it because he crossed the pole, he said, but he didn't gain an advantage. He was slower by what he did. But you happy with it?
Yeah, on a personal note, extremely happy. Quali was 47th. I was aiming to go. I said to Dan, if I can do your quali time in semis, I'll be happy. And I went a second faster and then came 37th. So, and the important thing was, like I described, my quali run, I scared the shit out of myself, made mistakes, enjoyed the result of it, but didn't particularly enjoy the actual run itself. Whereas semis was different. I'd relaxed. I really enjoyed my run. I felt fluid and I went 4 seconds faster. So 37th in old money finals was a great result, and I was extremely happy with that. Gutted for Dan. Dan qualified 24th, but if you look at his splits from qualifying, he was like in the teens all the way down to the last split, and then he had a puncture. His pro call got him to the bottom on like a soft tyre, and he qualified 24th, but he had time in the tank. He was riding really well, and I think he just booked it in the semis. I think it was just a bit of trying to work out how hard to push. Like I said, you've got those block of riders. Like I was only 0.9 behind him in that semi, and I rode with him in practice and saw him in practice, and there's no way if he'd had a good run, I would have been 0.9 behind him. He would have been well in the distance. So it's a shame, but that's just part of the battle that everybody's having to do. So yeah, for the team, it was a really good start for me and Dan.
So production-wise, I thought it was okay. I don't know if it was better than Red Bull. There was some bits missing that I got used to, the virtual straight, the key section, and the commentary. I thought Rick was good, but I watched Lenzerheide. You were saying before about the almost too much racing. I watched the semis and the final back to back, and I had to turn the sound off after an hour. I couldn't listen to Cedric anymore. It didn't seem to add much other than shouting, "He's fast, he's so fast," for every rider, but it improved in Leogang, and I think it'll only get better. What do you guys think to the TV production, and what was the production like on the ground?
I think it was good and bad. Like there's some stuff that are kind of cool, and some stuff that, like especially Lenzerheide, I don't think they were really on point by then. Leogang was much better.
Yeah.
Cam's final run, like we didn't see the whole off camber. They kind of showed like even the steep, like the two actually key section of the track we didn't see for the last ride on the hill. Like, I mean, it's pretty much a no-go. The quality of the drone shots and stuff, is not the best. Yeah. I've seen way better for sure. Commentary, I mean, I feel for Cedric because he's not a native speaker and is replacing someone that has won everybody's heart. So it's hard when you're not a native speaker, and I know all about it. But I think they improved from Lenzerheide to Leogang.
Yeah.
Maybe they could get a little bit closer on this, like kind of, I don't know if it's drone or heli shots, but sometimes you can. It's really from far, far, far away. It's a cool idea, but like the key section, I kind of liked it. Like some of the graphs that were there. I don't know what you guys think about the finish. Like it's not arch anymore. It's like to finish beams.
Yeah.
And they improved it a little, gang. They put a screen on the bottom with your times and your ranking. But in Lenzerheide, you literally didn't know what you did. Like you couldn't really read the result. Like if you were in front or not in front, it was really hard to read. So yeah, there's some stuff to improve. But the fact that they kept covered the whole track in Leogang, like almost the whole track, that was cool to see.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I don't have too much to add there. I mean, I think I wouldn't want to judge because I've never done it. I did listen, and like you said, George, like I feel like Cedric's got a long way to go. Maybe they've tried to split Rob's role in half and giving Rick the anchor kind of stats, professional commentary role, and then tried to bring Cedric in to bring the kind of entertainment role.
Yeah.
And at the moment, he's not particularly entertaining. But as I've just said, like I've never done it, so I wouldn't want to particularly judge. And like you said, hopefully he will get better as the season progresses. But I'm sure that with a big, a big outfit like Warner Brothers doing the production, if they're not happy and they're not getting good feedback by the end of the season, then they will just find someone else. So
there'll be lots of people.
And as for stuff on the ground there, to be honest, as a rider, like I haven't really noticed too much difference. I don't particularly go on. I did watch the race in Lenzerheide, but obviously as long as there's a screen, that's what we're watching. And one sad thing about the downhill races when you're there, whether Emil will agree with this or not, is unless you're either in France or Fort William, or I've never watched Snowshoe at the bottom, but like it's just dead. And then you get someone good come down who's going to challenge for the time, and you'll get like us and other people who are at the event start to make a bit of noise, and then people get involved, and then it just goes dead again. Like it's a real shame that the crowd isn't like more behind every rider and like getting a bit of an atmosphere going. So that would be cool, but obviously that's not a role of the unless they're going to start paying people to go and stand in the crowd.
On to the racing then. So Lenzerheide saw a double UK win, and I'm not sure which was the biggest story. Jordan Williams taking the win in his first elite race, or Rachel Atherton claiming victory after just one competitive race since 2019, during which time she's given birth to her daughter. Let's start with Jordan. 6th in quali, 9th in semis. It was looking like a podium would be a great result, but what a run. I don't think he won any of the splits, but it looked just about perfect, Jack.
Yeah, and that was literally what we were saying when he was coming down. Me and Dan were just watching, going, "Yep, he's nailed that. Yep, that's perfect. Holy shit, look at the speed he's just got out of there." Like, and I know that he spoke to his dad on the phone that night and just said, "Yeah, I just hit every downside I wanted to hit, and it just kept getting faster and faster." So yeah, absolutely incredible to go out there on that team, and do the first World Cup in that fashion was amazing. You can only take your hat off to him, really. It's incredible.
Loris finished less than half a second back and would have probably got the win if it wasn't for one mistake. That's just insane when you think about it, like you were saying before.
Just pause there, because I'm not sure how many people will have remembered this, but Val di Sole, end of last year, Loris won the men's, Jordan won the juniors, beating Loris. So 9 months ago at the last World Cup of last year, the 1-2 at the event was Jordan Williams, Loris Vergier. This year, 9 months on, Lenzerheide, the 1-2 in the men's, Jordan Williams, Loris Vergier, nothing changed. The gap was
incredible
because Jordan put 4 seconds into him at Val di Sole. But I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, that's an incredible stat. Loris looks good though, doesn't he?
Always does, doesn't he? When he can turn it on, he's always dangerous.
Well, I think it's just a very I don't know, smooth rider. I think he's just like makes everything looks easy. A little bit like Jordan, to be honest. Jordan made look easy in Lenzerheide, and I love to watch Loris ride. Also in practice, he's just like has such an ease on the bike, and it's beautiful to watch. So yeah, the two probably smoothest rider out there, or go 1 and 2, which is cool.
After winning the semi, Loic took 3rd with Finn in 5th. 3 riders on the box and team of the day. Loic's the man, it's his team. Do you think having Jordan and Finn on there is going to push him on even more, because there's no way he's going to want to be the number 2 or even the number 3 rider on his own team, is there?
100%. Did you see his Instagram post after Lenzerheide? Literally calling Jordan out and, in a playful way, and saying, "Right, on to Leo Gang, I'm going to show you who's boss," or whatever he was saying. Like, so yeah,
he said, "No more gifts now."
No more gifts. Yeah. So it's like
so funny.
That friendly inter-team rivalry is, while it is friendly, I know from first-hand experiences, is only going to make all of you faster. So yeah, it's cool to see.
On to the women's. And Emmy, at what stage did you think Rachel was a contender to take the win?
Oh, after the qualifying, I was like, "Oh my God, Because I was like, she's 5 seconds back and she's chilling hard. And yeah, I've known to see how Rachel's progression is, especially now that she's just not very like at the level she was physically.
Yeah.
And also mentally. But after the quali, I was like, yeah, there she is.
She was
and
second
especially
in
I
quali.
knew she was in quali. She was like
Second, I think.
5.5 back or something, which was a caution. But I knew that from last year, Cam also had a big caution in quali, and then Miriam turned it up for finals.
Yeah.
But I know how Rachel can ride on this track. She's done it in the past, winning by 9-10 seconds. You know, so I was just like, oh no.
Yeah.
And when I saw she was getting closer in semi, I was like, oh, this is gonna be tough because I know she's gonna risk everything. It's a shame the track didn't do a few more corners, but she would have gone second because she was like hanging by a thread. But it was cool to see how fast she was going the first like half of the track, and then she just tried to sit down and try to recover, because obviously Lenzerheide is the highest altitude track out in the circuit, and it will get everywhere in your body. But
do you know
definitely, sorry?
Do you know if she's racing Val di Sole? Because that, I mean...
She said she wasn't, but you never know with her. But I think she will focus on Fort Williams for now, which is also a scary thought to see her back in Fort William.
So Cami was half a second back, P1 in quali and semi. She must have come away from the weekend pretty happy.
She was a half a second away of a perfect weekend, you know. So obviously some frustration in the first half an hour after the race, but she got some good points, and obviously she was like, oh no, like I wish the track would have been a little bit longer. I think she was happy with the run.
Yeah,
maybe a little bit too conservative. That's a little bit of a problem when you win both of the first races. You're like, oh, I should do the same again, which is fair enough. You never really know like how much to push if you like kind of like have a cushion, and that this thing can happen. And I think it probably gonna help her for the rest of the season, you know.
Yeah, Nina in third, Valley in fourth, Marine in fifth. I thought Valley looked very fast until she crashed in the semi on that rock drop. Learning how to refocus quickly is going to be one of the things riders need to really adapt to, isn't it? With the semis and the finals. You're muted, mate.
Sorry, it's because Sarah just used the microwave. It's funny you should just say that, actually, because Charlie Hatton has literally just replied to me, giving me his feedback. And that's perfect time to put in what he's just said, because he said, I really enjoyed the new schedule. I like the fast pace and quick turnaround between runs. It's pretty mentally tiring to try and get back into the race mindset after the semi-final. Yeah. But I think it, you know, he says, I'm sure it's something we'll get used to. So that's another rider who, like you just said, George, and Emmy, they're struggling to just flick it back on after that semi, which I can imagine is tough.
Yeah, and especially if you crash, like, also Nina crashed in a little bit after where Valley crashed after the wall. And I guess Valley's crash was a little bit less high pace, but Nina's one was quite gnarly. So if you go down there again, you can see how conservative they both were. And Lenzerheide was probably on the tightest race ever in the women's field. So that made a huge difference for sure.
In junior men, it was Christian Hauser from Bodø with Hugo Marini in third. Hauser's run would have been good enough to qualify in 11th, I think, if I remember rightly. And the men's qualifying is obviously straight after the junior race, so it's the same track. I see what you're getting at now, Jack. That's pretty crazy, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's every year there's more of them coming in. And like I say, it's tightened up those time gaps. So a great run now where you might have had a 20th place and you might have been 6 or 7 seconds off 60th. Now you might be 40th place on the same run, but you're only like 1.2 off 60th. So, yeah, it's just insane how high the standard is now and how many riders are there fighting for the spots.
In junior women, it was Arise van Leuven taking the win by 4 seconds from Valentina Rose Sanchez in second and Lisa Bouladou in third. On to Leogang for round 2. Not quite such a good weekend for you and your team, Jack. Talk us through it.
Yeah, it's funny. I said to the boys on the way home, like we did a 3-week trip in Europe or 4-week trip in Europe in 2021, and it was just after I'd done my shoulder again, and the whole thing was crap for me. But then on the last day, I came fourth at the Mega Avalanche, totally unexpected. So I drove home in a great mood. And this is the other way around. We've had an amazing 2-week trip with the team, like some great results, and then because the weather didn't go our way, it leaves you feeling a little bit disheartened. But yeah, basically, in a nutshell, our junior Owen, he's had the pace since the start of the off season, but this sport is so mentally challenging. He's been struggling to turn it on, and something clicked with him when he got on this track, and I knew it was going to be his weekend straight away. He was one of the first guys in the practice to send the gap in the woods, and he was just buzzing. So I had a feeling he was going to relax into it, and he came 8th. He was in, the only juniors that beat him in the qualifying were factory supported juniors. He was in front of Hugo Marini, and he did a really solid time. But then I think it was about 3 minutes before he was due to do his race run, half the junior field was down, more than half. And this storm blew in, they don't stop us for the rain. It's the wind they stop us for. It was literally trying to tear tents out of the pits. And so they held the race for about 35 minutes. And so by the time you're on track, the track's just destroyed. Like those juniors rode in the dry and he came down in the wet. So he had a solid run for what he rode in. He came 15th, and it's not what he had up his sleeve, but at least he's off the mark. And then typical, you couldn't write it. Like it stopped raining for about an hour and a half, and me and Dan went up for our runs, and we were about 50 minutes delayed, or not even, about 30 minutes delayed by the time it come around for our runs. And the track had dried out, like everybody was having a look, and we were all thinking, right, this is going to be great. And then again, I think I was 4 minutes from the gate. I had helmet on, goggles on, ready to go. Dan was 3 minutes behind me, and we could see this storm coming down the valley. And I'm saying to my mechanic, like, get me in that gate. Come on, let's go. Nobody wants to ride Leogang in the grease. And the storm just turned up pretty much there and then. So they held the race again for another 30 minutes, and it just rained. And Jamie Edmondson summed it up. He was sat behind me. He was doing his qualifying run 1 behind me, and he looked at me, and I could see the fear in his eyes. And he just went, I feel like a sacrifice. Because like those first guys on the track, you're fucked. Like I barely got down without leaving the bike. And in a situation like that, like you kind of know that quali's gone because you can see the sun's out, in half an hour it's going to be dry. It wasn't quite that simple because it did rain again, but you can only compare yourself to the guys that you came down amongst. And out of the 16 or 17 riders after it reopened, I was second, and only one of us qualified, which was Pau, who had a great ride to get in. The rest of us, none of us qualified. And we were all guys with top 60 balls who raced in Lenzerheide. So yeah, it was tough. Same happened to Dan. Dan was 2 seconds behind me. But thankfully, all 3 of us got down uninjured. And we just feel like someone's hit the pause button, after that last practice run. Someone's just gone, and we're now all at home just like, just pissed off and just want to get to Val di Sole and get back at it. So yeah.
Yeah, as you said, the juniors race was weather affected, and we didn't see the conclusion of it on the broadcast. It stopped. Leo Abella took the win, but the top 2 qualifiers, Bodie Kuhn and Henry Kiefer, they deserve a shout out because they made it down into 2nd and 4th place on, as you say, a completely different track. I think that the 2 pivot riders got caught up in it too, Emmy.
Yeah. They qualified 4th and 6th, I think. So they were like completely into it. And Ryan Griffiths crashed early in his run, so after the first log, we were already on, and Dane crashed a bit further in the woods. So yeah, they gambled and it didn't work. So we'll see what they do in Val di Sole.
In the women's, it was Lisa Bouladou who took the win by 5 seconds, with Amy Kenyon and Riley Miller in 3rd. Amy Kenyon in 2nd, Riley Miller in 3rd. Nasty crash for fastest qualifier Reese van Leuven, and we hope she recovers soon. What do you know about her, Emmy? Because she looks fast.
Well, I think she's already back on the bike. I think there's nothing broken, yeah.
All right, cool.
So her head is fine. She doesn't have any broken bones. She's just a fast little rider from Weddington. Really stylish, like a little bit, maybe sometimes too quick for her head. She's just like, a little ripper, but she'll learn from that for sure. And she's with Cecile and Cedric Ravanel in the team, so they will coach her through it. they've done it before with Valley, who had the
Yeah.
similar issues. So I'm guessing there are people for it.
In elite women, it was a fantastic podium for Phoebe Gale in 5th. Monica Rasnik absolutely nailed the bottom section on her way to 4th. Rachel in 3rd. Cami looked to have a near perfect run until Valley came down and took the win by 4 seconds. I actually said, holy shit, 3 times during Valley's run. It was incredible, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was like a very, very good run. It's about time she does it. She does a perfect run in her home track, I would say. No, I'm just kidding. It's I think no, but like mentally, I know it's like the hardest thing to do, and a lot of people have won at home, but it's definitely an advantage. And you could see how she's nailing the motorway every time, and all the girls were really like struggling to make it. Sometimes you just like try to pedal and you couldn't make it. She just looked at ease and yeah. She crashed the first 2 times she tried to win at home, and she's definitely the fastest on track. So it's good that she finally put it off.
What I wanted to ask you about here was, do you think that Rachel taking the win the weekend before helped Valley? Because she usually comes into Leogang under loads of pressure. It's a home race, you know, she's on all the gondolas. Everyone knows her, everyone on the lift. But Rachel was such a big story that Valley kind of went under the radar a bit. That's how it felt to me. Do you think that took the pressure off her a bit?
Oh, she didn't talk to anyone all week.
Who,
Valley? So I don't think she was under a lot of pressure. Well, at least not to me. I was like, okay, yeah, and I get it. She's someone that gets nervous for races.
Yeah,
like that's just like type. Cami would get less nervous and she would less show it. But I think, to be honest with you, I think she was just like that much better on that track that she could just ride 95% and still win the race.
Yeah.
So that was like probably what she noticed, that, okay, she understood that she should ride this pace, I can put around without mistakes. And if that happens, I'm going to probably win the race. And that was a good tactic. I think maybe she tried a little bit too hard the last 2 times. And it was also a bit more treacherous with the weather. Definitely Rachel coming in takes a lot of media away from other people. Cam noticed that. That's actually, she was a bit annoyed by it. She was like, everybody talks about Rachel now. Yeah, she's like, the last 3 times she won on Leogang and she wasn't even invited to the press conference. So she was like a little bit, okay, they forgot about me now.
Wow.
But yeah, she could use that as fuel energy for the next race. But definitely Rachel's comeback needs to be mentioned, and like I'm completely in awe what she's doing, but probably helped Valley a little bit. I don't know. But I think she just like was really comfortable on track day, and that you could see that straight away.
Nina missed a breaking point when she was 0.8 up and ended up 7th, just 5 seconds back on Cam. The depth of the elite women's field now is incredible. 1 mistake and you're 7th. It's not just the men. That bad knee doesn't seem to be slowing Nina down too much, does it?
They call her for Netman now. That's pretty funny. Yeah, she's done that twice already now. She's done it in the past too. Yeah, no, I was like, especially the final runs in Lenzerheide, I was like really amazed about what she done.
Yep.
And yeah, she was fast and back almost to herself in Leogang. So yeah, we'll see what she does in Val di Sole. I don't know if Val di Sole is one of her favorite tracks. Probably not, but yeah, definitely a track that hopefully she doesn't have to put her foot down if it's wet or whatever. It's definitely something I struggle with. But if you can put your feet on, actually, you don't really forget about it, you know.
Yeah. Perfect weekend for Valley, winning quali, semi and the final. And a perfect weekend for Austria, with Andy Kolb taking the win in elite men. Joe Breeden, as you said before, Jack, was the first rider down, and he posted a 3:09. And I wondered if anyone would break 3 minutes. Kolb was the only rider to do that. He looks great in Lenzerheide. He won quali, 2nd in semis before crashing in finals. So it's been coming, hasn't it?
Yeah, it definitely has, mate. It's since last year, really.
Yeah. We've seen riders have breakout seasons before and then never be able to back it up. Jack, I know you felt Andy would carry on progressing. What did you see in him that made you think that?
Well, it was the combination of 2 things. So last year he was barely off the podium, which shows he's got consistent pace at that top level. But then World Champs, he had some great splits, did he? Or did he win the time practice? I can't remember, but he was in touch. He had a couple. Val di Sole, did he qualify first? So he was showing he had that end stage pace. But then also he'd been consistent all season. It wasn't like he was just like a flash in the pan one week and then he'd disappear off the next, or win qualifying and then crash in the race. So yeah, it's of no surprise to me. And somebody did actually say to me, I think it might have been one of my guys, they didn't have their money on him. They said, oh, he can't act the pressure. And I was like, he's been getting podiums all last season. Like, he won quali and semis in Lenzerheide. Like, you know, that's how hard they're pushing at the top. He just had a crash in Lenzerheide. Like, it happens. So yeah, it's really cool. He's one of the nicest guys on the circuit. So yeah, big shout out to Andy and big congrats there.
Cool. Bruni second again, Jackson in third, and then again, similar to Loris in Lenzerheide, one mistake on the bottom section cost him the win. Finn in fourth and Luca in fifth, just 5 seconds separated the top 20, which is incredible. So after 2 rounds, Camille leads the women's on 680 points. Rachel is second on 616, with Valley in third on 592. And in the men's, Loic leads on 595, with Finn on 494 and Loris on 486. Interestingly, neither Camille nor any of the top 3 men have taken a win yet. So as expected, consistency is becoming incredibly important. And in our group chat, I said I'd be interested to know if you offered Loic and Cami the overall now without taking a win, would they take it? I think we all agreed that if it was us, we would. Did you ask Cami, Emmy?
Yeah, I asked Cami and she was like, what is this question? Like, I want to win the overall, but I want to win races. So she would take it, but obviously this isn't the goal, you know. So, and
so she thought it was a stupid
she was like,
question.
hey, just said Josh, it's a stupid question.
Well, we'll be back with more stupid questions for Tahnee Seagrave after these messages. Tahnee Seagrave, welcome back to the pod. It's been a while. How are you doing?
Thanks for having me back. Yeah, I'm good actually. Just chilling out in Innsbruck at the moment. Crankworks is on, so here to support the boys.
Nice. And are you missing Whip Off to see us tonight? Is that right?
Yeah, I actually didn't go to Whip Off just to be on the podcast.
Oh, you legend.
Oh.
Well, thank you very much.
Boyfriend and your brother. That's commitment. Fair enough.
No, I'm joking. I actually pulled my back out this morning, so I wasn't able to go up the hill. Yeah.
I believe you.
How'd you do that?
I don't know, I just think my body's taken a lot over the past 2 weeks. A lot more than what I have been doing. So I think I just pushed it a bit much. I went to the gym. I spent 2 days at Area 47, which is that water park.
Yeah.
And I think that actually did more damage than I thought it did. I'm not an 8-year-old kid anymore that can just whiz round. So yeah, I think it's just a combination of things.
So hard to believe it, but your last appearance on the pod was in April 2020. And I have to say I'm a bit shocked because to me it feels like you've missed a lot of racing since then. But when I went and looked at the results, the shortened 2020 season went really well for you. You finished 5th in the overall. 2021, I think you're on the podium at every round. So you haven't really missed that much, have you? It's just last season.
Yeah, it's I was thinking, I feel like the last 4 years have just gone. It's really hard for me to, I think, because after I had that spike of winning a lot,
yeah,
I got injured pretty much every season until this season. So 2021, I did race all season, but I had a lot of problems with my neck and my slip disc. So yeah, I feel like I have definitely been there, and I've been racing, but I haven't been racing to what I feel like is my full potential or what I feel like is me in a way. But yeah.
Hi, Tahnee. So I remember that day pretty vividly. In 2001, you took the win in Leger, and I think that was a really emotional win. I remember being really happy for you too, because you had a lot of injury before that as well. Tell us a bit about what that meant. And yeah, it was a couple of years since your last victory at that time.
Yeah, 2021. It was just so difficult coming into that year because I'd had a couple of years of injury, and then I started off right before the season, finding out that I had 2 slip discs in my neck, not just one, and one of them was pressing on a nerve, so it was super painful. And we went for a steroid injection in my neck to try and like ease the pain for a few months. That eventually wore off, and then the season started. So we were like, well, and, you know, it's at the end of the day, it's my job. I have to turn up to my job. So Leogang was the first round, and that was super difficult. So to get a podium there was just amazing for me. And then, yeah, the next one was the second round, I think, Leger. So I wasn't expecting to win there or anywhere that year, really. So I think it took me by surprise. You know, I got a bit lucky with Pom Pom crashing out in finals. She for sure would have taken the win that day. But I don't know. I felt like I worked really hard for that one. The day before, after qualifying, I was like 8 seconds back. We all know that I'm not great at qualies. Like, I can't switch it on for that. But it just felt like I was so upset. I was like, that's three like race runs in a row that I'm like so far back. So I actually went to Plenty like right after qualies. I was like, I need to feel good. Like, I'm sick of feeling like shit. So I just went to Plenty, where I like grew up riding. I did a few laps on my own just to get back in the flow state. And yeah, the next day I was buzzing.
Cool.
Yeah, it's pretty cool to see. Like, you grew up there in the region, so you also, like, of course, probably meant a lot to win in front of the people that you grew up around. Yeah, so 2022 season that kicked off in Lords, and yeah, I remember that race was really, really tight. You seeded third and then finished third, but it was like a second off the wind. So I guess, of course, you wanted to win, but you must have been pretty happy to see where you're at that race.
Yeah, again, like, I sound like a broken record, but like, I finished 2021 and I was like, nothing's going to get in my way this off season. Like, I can't be asked having another shit season. I know it's like not that bad to most people. Like, Phoebe, for example, has just got her first podium, and I remember how that felt for me. Like I really couldn't believe what had happened. But I guess, like, because I know what it feels like to win, just my expectations, anything but winning, are just like, obviously I appreciate the result, but I'm always going to want more. So after the 2021, I was like, fuck, I don't want to be, you know, in the chasing group. I want to be the one that's being chased. So I just kind of put all my health issues to one side and kind of just neglected a lot of stuff, I think, and a lot of weight I had on my shoulders, and ignored a lot of like signs, which looking back is obviously not the way to go about it. But yeah, and eventually came into the season, and I'd actually been to see Red Bull because I thought right before Lords, I was like, I still have health issues. I don't know what's going on. I feel like I have chronic fatigue. Nothing showed up on my bloods, but I was like being sick from anxiety, and I'd never really experienced anxiety before. I started having a load of panic attacks, and I was like, oh, I just want to get it done. So Lords came around and kind of took my mind off the things, and yeah, I got third place, but I'd be lying if I said I was in a good state of mind and feeling healthy. I was just glad it was over, and I couldn't wait to get home. Yeah, I was dealing with a lot mentally at that point, but you know, I was stoked in a way on my third place, but for all the wrong reasons. Like, I was stoked because my sponsors would be happy, the team was being held up, and yeah, it was just a good sign for the season to come, or as I thought it would.
So after Lord, if I'm correct, you got COVID, is that right? Yeah. So like you said, it probably snowballed into everything that's been like building, snowballed into having COVID, and then you had that huge crash at that jump sesh around home with a concussion, and it resulted to having like severe symptoms like severe anxiety as well. Tell us a bit about how it happened and how the concussion manifests itself.
Yeah, so as soon as I got home, I got COVID. Like, I kind of knew that was going to happen after that we hadn't been outside for a few years, and then that big event. So I rested for a couple of weeks, went straight to I did like a week after that. So I had like a few weeks before the Red Bull Vanta Jam. And again, I felt like I was just pushing through stuff. Like I felt in my gut, I felt like something was wrong, but I just kept pushing, and I felt like I had something to prove all the time. It was a super weird like headspace to be in. So I went to Vantage Jam and I was like, screw it, I'm gonna do all the jumps and like I'll hang out with the boys and have some fun. But it just felt so forced. And yeah, I like went to the top, cleared the first few jumps fine. And usually what the type of rider I am, especially is like I've got into like doing dirt jumps the past few years. When you clear one, the rest of them comes so easy. I just keep going. I don't really like to stop on the line. But the speed wasn't right for one of the jumps, and I wasn't aware of the speed change and that you had to then like get back up to speed for this transfer jump. And I just cased it real bad. And obviously on a downhill race bike, when you case things, it's it spits you over the bars. So that was the crash that resulted in my concussion. Originally, I had no idea, really. I'd never experienced a knockout or concussion. So I wasn't knocked out, but things went black for a little while. Had all the symptoms of a concussion. So they sent me to hospital, but the hospital people like didn't really see me for like 8 hours. And when you're concussed in like bright white rooms and like the noise of an A&E waiting room, it just felt unbearable at the time. And I felt like I'd waited long enough. So I went home and went to sleep. And then I started getting better for a week. And then, for some reason, just 1 week later, it just like plummeted downwards like at 100 mile an hour. And then that was the start of last year's journey, I guess.
You mentioned to me, because we've seen each other when you were going to that Swiss Concussion Center in Zurich, and you telling me and Cam about the changes that you went through. Also, not only like the symptoms, like the physical symptoms, but also like the mental, psychological, and also almost personality changes that you went through. Can you tell us a bit about that?
Yeah, for sure. It was difficult because my main symptom was what I imagine is anxiety, but not just like, oh, I'm a bit scared here. It was like a physical sensation. Like I was in constant fight or flight, basically, like when your body goes numb and your brain goes foggy and like you're tingling. Like I had all that, but all the time, for about 3 months straight until it started to calm down. And the only way it would, like, it's not that there was any cure for it and it wouldn't calm down, but when I was most comfortable was when I just like let go of everything. And even then, obviously, it's a symptom brought on from the concussion. So it's not like, people would try and say to me, oh, but just find that happy spot and like, you should calm down. And I get that. It works in day-to-day life with other things, but this was brought on by a head trauma. So, and a chemical change. So it's not something I could physically calm down, but it's something I could make more bearable. Instead of like engaging with all the thoughts and stuff, I could definitely make it more bearable. But again, with the concussion came like racing thoughts and there's just loads of stuff. You're not thinking rationally anymore. So it was just a washing machine of just bad stuff, and like it was just a circuit that kept going, and there was no way out for what felt like a while. So yeah, I had to in the end drop all sport activities. It wasn't possible. Every time I tried something, more symptoms came back. Anytime I had a conversation for more than 10 minutes, my symptoms come back. So or got worse even. So eventually I just had to start meditating and trying to change the way I viewed myself and the situation, and not even change, just trying to be okay with the way I felt, which was really difficult, but it took a lot of work, and I'm glad I did.
How was it for your social circle? I guess it's like kind of like also probably hard for your people around you. Like, did they notice the changes? Obviously, like, did they notice also you were different? I remember you told me the story about Kate and yourself. Like, I think it's for interesting for people to understand. Like, it also affects you, but it's also affecting other people. And can you tell us a bit about that?
Well, for sure. In the beginning, I was just at home with my mum. I think Dad might have been away racing. I can't remember, but Mum and Dad explained it to people like I just became an infant again, like an actual baby. Like I wasn't capable of doing things on my own. Like Mum had to like take me to the toilet because I was too scared to go to the toilet on my own. Like I couldn't, like I would like just try and sleep all day basically because it was the only time that I felt comfortable. And then it was like small steps, like I remember the first step that I took by myself and I felt like insanely good about it was I went to go and fill my water bottle up. Like I went to go and fill the kettle up, put the kettle on, fill my water bottle up, went back to the sofa, and that felt like the biggest achievement. So obviously to my mum and dad, like they saw a huge change. But Cade, my boyfriend, he was away for a couple of weeks filming a project and he came back. And obviously we had to warn him that I wasn't really the person that I was. And when he came back, there was so much emotion. I was so happy to see him. And like I cried loads and like I felt so comfortable. I was like, yay, like I'm safe. Even though I felt safe before, but obviously seeing your person makes you feel amazing. But then I think my brain like, I don't know, there was so much emotion involved that once I let it all out, my brain was like, what the fuck? Like all of a sudden I was like, who is this person? Like I was looking at Cade like, I don't know who you are. Like you're super scary. Like, so I like ran back to my mom and cuddled my mom. And I said to Mum, can you tell Cade that I'm really sorry? Like I know who he is, but I'm just not comfortable around him right now. And it took like a whole evening of like like staring at him and realizing
Oh my God.
he wasn't scary. And it was Cade and like him like slowly coming over. And I think that's when he realized that it was bad and it was going to take a lot of time. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mentioned the Swiss Concussion Center in Zurich where Miriam Nicole has been visiting as well. It would be interesting for you to tell us like how do they treat concussion there? Like, a few examples of stuff that you've done there.
Yeah. So I went there like probably like I think it was 7 months into my concussion maybe, and I did 2 days of testing basically the first time I went there, and it was a bunch of tests like vestibular testing, so like in a dark room with like lights in and that like there's just so much technical terms that I just wouldn't be able to explain, but other stuff where like they cover your eyes and the floor moves and they see like what your body does. Other ones where they cover your eyes and they put like hot water in your ear and it's meant to like your balance system just goes out the window. It makes you super dizzy and they like track your eyes. So those are just a few tests that I did and they come up with all this data and the doctor there was amazing. She was super understanding and the way she was talking to me made me feel heard and understood. And I felt like I wasn't going crazy basically. And she made me understand and realize that there was a way out. So she proposed this like 5-week program. She said there's no rush because obviously I was doing very well with just rest. Like at this point, she was like there's no way you're going to be back racing this year. So, and at that point, I never wanted to touch a bike again anyway. So I was like, whatever. And yeah, I did 5 weeks there. And my main thing was the vestibular system. So my eyes weren't connecting properly to my balance and my brain. And my brain didn't trust anything it couldn't see. So as soon as my eyes were shut, like it was just like black everywhere and I felt super unstable. So we worked on that with physios. And I did a lot of work with an osteopath there, like craniotherapy, I think it is. Like he just like touches a few parts of my head. And that was unreal. Like it was crazy. The first time he did that, I was like, what is going on? He's literally just touched like 4 parts of my head and that's it. And he's like gone. But then when I got to talk to him and he was explaining it all, and eventually I just went there and napped for a whole hour and had the craziest dreams and it was insane. So yeah, I spent 5 weeks there. Luckily Cade was with me for the 5 weeks, so I felt a lot more comfortable. I came to see you, obviously, Emily. Yeah. So just cutting up that time was actually really helpful for me.
Oh yeah, so thank you for sharing that. I mean, it's been like it's pretty like to me also very like hard stuff to hear, but I think you said also that somewhere it changed you, like to go through all that as a person. How so?
Yeah, for sure. Like it wasn't until probably about January where I stopped having symptoms because of the stuff I was doing. So it wasn't basically exercise didn't bring on my symptoms. So that's when I started to realize that I was better. And that's when like the stress and the anxiety started to slow down a bit. And that's when I started to realize all the work that I'd been doing on myself and from within was starting to show in daily life. And I just felt like a different person. I don't know. I feel like a lot of people who are close to me see the difference. I like don't have a bully in my head anymore. Like I used to, like I said, I was never happy with anything but first. Like that then would mean every single day I was never good enough. Like I was never good enough for myself. No matter how many people told me I was amazing, I was doing great, people close to me, I just didn't care and I never listened to them because to me I was not good enough. And even when I won, I was like, well, I didn't win by enough. It was just constant bullying. So I think that weighed me down a lot. And that's when I noticed I didn't have it anymore. Like when I got back into training and I was with the team, it was quite nice. I felt free in a way.
Yeah, I kind of felt that when I retired from racing. I was like, oh, I don't need to go fast anymore today. Feel good about myself. Yeah, so that was unfortunately quite a few concussion last season, and also big shout out to Miriam Nicole, who is still suffering from the effect of hers. I think there's been a change in the sport in how we handle them now. Since when I was started racing, nobody talked about that. Is that something you've noticed?
For sure. Well, I think I was in a very fortunate position. I got it very lucky. Like my team is my family, so they don't really have a choice. Like if I'm not well, they see it, and my sponsors stood by me. I think maybe some of them in the beginning might have found it hard because I had to go radio silent. But eventually, I think as I started to see them again, and I'm so close with most of my sponsors, if not all of them, they really did understand. So I'm so aware, and obviously with the help of Red Bull and being able to pay, I had to self-pay the Zurich treatment. Obviously I'm aware a lot of people can't afford to just go to Zurich and they don't have the time or the money to go and get that treatment. So in a way, yeah, very fortunate. And it makes me sad that I feel like maybe upcoming riders or people that haven't established themselves in the sport might not get that opportunity and feel like that they, when they crash and have a concussion, they have to come back as soon as possible because of the fear of they might get dropped or they can't see a physical injury. So that plays on my mind a lot. And I'm not sure how yet I can help with that. But I do feel like talking about it has definitely opened people's eyes to how severe they can be and how bad they can be if you don't take the time off. So I do think there is change there, but I think there can always be more done for sure.
Of course.
Definitely. Tahnee, thank you for speaking so open and honestly about that experience. It's incredible to hear it, really. So you've battled a lot of injuries like a lot of people in this sport. 2019, there was a shoulder at Fort William. 2020, there was the fib and tib. At the end of 2021, there was the neck. And then obviously we've just talked in length about the concussion. Injuries do weigh heavy on everyone. How much did you lose the love of the sport last year? And did you ever consider to not come back?
Yeah, definitely. It's hard to say because, sorry, is that light okay?
Yeah, let's go, yeah.
It's hard to say because I can clearly remember in 2019, I won the first World Cup of the year. I did my shoulder and I pushed so hard to get back. Like that was not a question. Like I wanted to be back I got back in time for Worlds, got a silver medal, all was good, carried on, didn't even question it. Like, went to Whistler, had a great time, and then did my ankle and tib, and that one was a little bit harder because my shoulder was so easy and it wasn't very long. My ankle took like 6 months until I was able to ride properly again. And that was during COVID, so I couldn't see any physios. So I had a lot of online physio work, which was just, the motivation was difficult because I had no idea what I was doing. At one point, I had like a spoon and oil on my foot, and I was just rubbing it. I was like, "Is this even what you're meant to be doing?" But I got back in time for the new season, so I just felt like I hadn't actually missed much. Like, I didn't actually have that much time off, because as soon as I was good again, I went straight back into racing again, and I did that full season along with everyone else that had missed because of COVID. I felt like because I was back and I was, everyone had taken time off, I felt like, not from a team's perspective, but just in everyone's head and my own, like, I was never actually that injured because everyone was there. So I just felt like my results weren't where I wanted them to be, but didn't even consider that maybe it's because I literally ripped my foot off like 6 months ago. But because in our sport, there's such a stigma that, like, you literally have an injury and you have to get back as quick as possible. They're just disregarded. And like, a lot of people have their fairy tale endings. They come back from injuries, like especially the top guys, and they get a gold medal at Worlds, or, we see it actually quite often. So I feel like unless you're doing that, you're not achieving what you're meant to, and you haven't recovered properly from your injury. So I think after that season, that was when I started to, like I said, dip down a little bit. And I was like, I don't know. With the neck, I think the neck issues kind of made it hard because it's so close to your head. And I don't know, people carry stress. They carry it there in their neck, and the back of their neck. So I just think it was a slow process of just slowly getting knocked down again and again, and just thinking like, but those crashes didn't scare me to get back on my bike. I wasn't scared about getting back on my bike and crashing again. But this past one, I've been terrified every single time I've got back on my bike. So, but weirdly, I'm loving it more than I ever have done, and I appreciate it more than I ever have done.
That's really good to hear. So obviously you're arguably the lead rider on your team. It's a family-owned team. You've talked to us a little bit already about how you termed it the bully in your head that was putting an awful lot of pressure on you. Are you feeling less pressure to perform now, everything you've gone through, or now you're back racing? Are you still putting a lot of pressure on yourself to deliver for the team?
Yes, so that was obviously a big fear of mine, was when I started racing, would the bully come back? And luckily, I think, we have signed an elite male for the first time ever. Obviously, my brother Chaos was on the team, but he lost his love for racing a long time ago. And I think he felt like in the end, he was just making up numbers. So the fact that we signed an elite male, we now have another elite female, Phoebe, and a junior. There's a team without me and Chaos. Like, this no longer a family team, because we have individual riders that hold their own weight, which is amazing for obviously me and my dad and Chaos, because that was always the dream. But racing is never that easy. And obviously, as much as I guess that the first round, the bully wasn't there because I literally didn't care. I was like, I have no pressure whatsoever. But because the first round went pretty well and like I didn't crash all weekend, I was like, sweet, I'll just aim for more in Leogang. But you don't notice the pattern happening, that I'm already wanting more for Leogang. But my goal for this year was to try and do a full season without having that come back in my head, just because I felt like that's what I needed for my healing process. So yeah, in Leogang, like, I started pushing harder. I'd obviously got 5th in qualies, and then like I had a super chilled run, and I was like, oh my god, this is amazing. Like, and I just got so carried away, and like I was being chill, but I think you just don't realize how much. And like, when you're away for a week at a World Cup, it feels like it's been a year. Like, honestly, you're there. And I just got so wrapped up. And yeah, in semis, I got a bit excited and had actually a really big crash in my semis. But after I was upset, I realized that there's so many positives to take away from that. And I'm quite glad we've got this week now to just chill, because I can reflect on it and tell myself to just slow down a bit again.
Yeah. Okay. So discussing this season, did you only start training and riding again in February? Is that right?
Yeah. Well, I did a team camp in January, but that was like, I felt like I wasn't an athlete and that, like, I just came along for the ride because I had FOMO. I wasn't really training that hard.
Yeah, for sure. When was it where you moved out of that scared phase and all of a sudden you were like, oh, hang on, I can do this again? Can you remember what month or when that was?
I mean, to be honest, I still like get it now. If I take like a week off my bike, or every time my brain tries to make me believe that I've never ridden a bike before and like it's going to be the scariest thing ever. But when did we go? So we went in February, we went on a team camp in Malaga, and I was so stiff and so scared, but I just knew I just had to try and tell myself I just had to trust the process. And every time I got on my bike, I knew it would get a little bit easier. I obviously knew I was going to crash again. But I just tried not to think about that. Obviously, your worries today will rob you of your happiness, or your worries of tomorrow robs you of your happiness of the now. So that's what I just stuck to my entire time. And I was like, you just can't worry about stuff that hasn't happened yet, or that might not happen. So I tried really, really hard to stay in the moment. And when I did do that, I noticed that I wasn't as scared because I couldn't think about what might happen. Because obviously the big fear is crashing,
for sure,
as it is for everyone. But I just feel like it is a lot more prominent when, you've had a few crashes back to back that haven't gone too well.
Definitely. I do remember seeing that you took a crash at Lords at the test event, and it was your first crash. What was the feeling after that? Was it relief, or did things go downhill a little bit again, or how did you feel after that?
Yeah, well, actually, I can't remember if I crashed, if that was my first crash. Did I? I can't remember when I filmed Sound of Speed for Red Bull, but maybe it was before. I'm so confused now, but I definitely I had crashed a lot.
Either way, how did you feel? Can you remember how you felt after the first crash happened? Was it a relief, or did it kind of take you back down again and you have to come back out?
This is the thing, is the Lords one, the test event, because I think I had been training somewhere else and I felt fine and I had crashed, but they were like fun crashes, like
little washout or something
in like big big piles of dust, and like, haha, yeah, that was fun, like kind of like, cool, got lucky there, like whatever, carry on. And like you're so stoked that crash has happened. But in Lords, I think the fact that like the team setups were there again, I was in an environment again, and it's so weird because I didn't actually have my crash obviously at a race event, but for some reason it was just so daunting being around people that I knew had been training all off season. They were coming here to like try and showcase or see where they were at, and that was quite stressful in a way. But as soon as my tires hit the dirt on that first day of practice, I felt insane. Like I felt so good. I had no stresses. And the amount of people that actually, I don't know if they were being nice, but the amount of people that came up to me and said I looked so much better on my bike, even from like 2021. And I did. I genuinely felt more comfortable, and I was just loving it. And then it rained in the evening. And I don't think anyone likes Lords in the wet. Like it's not a fun place to be.
No.
And I was like, I could not go up, but then I just felt like I was giving my brain and that fear like power over me. And I felt like if I didn't go and I didn't at least try, then I would anytime it rained, it would probably get worse.
Yeah.
So I kitted up in the morning and I went up and I like kind of had a chat to myself, like there's obviously a higher chance of crashing. Like I know this, like it's so slick up there. So I probably like already told myself I was going to crash basically, which isn't great, but I crashed on the wall and I hit my head a little bit. Obviously the wall's pretty steep, steep, and I just like tapped my front wheel, like slammed my head a bit, and like I actually hyperextended my shoulder. I've actually still got shoulder issues from that, but that really rattled me. I got really, really scared just because like there was a bit of paint off of my helmet. And I think just obviously the stress and anxiety are two things that were symptoms. So, but they're also things I'm going to naturally feel after a crash like that. So it was kind of a battle in my head. And I just had to be like, right, I'll just end the day there. I'll like chill out. I'll see how and to be honest, I was stressed for the whole week after because in my original crash, my symptoms didn't come up until a week later. Or the bad bit wasn't until a week later. So until that 7-day mark went, I was just petrified, and I was so exhausted from being stressed so much. I just did nothing for the 7 days. I was just like waiting for something to happen. It was awful. But as soon as the 7 days went, that was it. I was like brand new again. I was like, coast clear. So yeah, it was really, really scary. But again, it was part of the puzzle, and it needed to happen. So
you just mentioned The Sound of Speed. It's a pretty incredible film. That it's beautifully shot. Who shot it?
Thank you. It was Still City. So Joe Bowman and Sam Needham. Those are the two lads that shot that for me. And I didn't really want to film it with anyone else because I pitched to Red Bull when I was starting to feel better. I was like, oh, it would be so sick if we did The Sound of Speed, right? Because at this point I was like, I think I'm going to race the season. So, and I feel good on my bike. So I feel like it would be sick if we dropped an edit where people are like, oh, she's back on her bike and she's loving it. And I feel like, the people I feel comfortable with is Still City. So yeah.
Cool. If anyone hasn't seen it, go and check it out because it's bloody amazing. And also, I would suggest people, if you've got a few minutes, go and watch episode 3 of How We Roll, because that is. I watched that last night after doing the recording, and you see the actual horror of the concussion and stuff. And also the horror on Kate's face when you can see that the interviewer is going to ask him about it. And he just goes, tell he didn't want to talk about it. And he just goes, I was away racing. I was away for most of it. Yeah. And just he plays his cards early, doesn't he? I was away for most of it.
That's exactly how he said it as well.
So pre-lens hide, what were the ambitions? Was it just to get rid of that bully? Was that the...
Yeah, so... like obviously I made sure that everyone knew on the team what the goal was for me, just so that there weren't any expectations, but I don't think they had any anyway. They weren't, they've got my back through thick and thin, and they understand me completely. So but it was just nice to kind of lay it out, and I feel like I say it more to them so that when I start getting carried away, they can remind me. And they did every day remind me that I just wanted to be back racing and enjoy my bike again. And it's like I said, it's just so easy to get carried away. One race feels like 10 for some reason. And I wanted to progress naturally. And to be honest, I'd be lying if I said that I didn't want to eventually be on top form again. There was a goal I wanted to feel like I was able to race at my best again. That would be nice, but also I'm like, if I don't get there this year, then that's fine. There's no time pressure on that.
Yes, I think it's kind of normal as well. Like if you don't have like a vision for where you want to do this, it's really hard to stay motivated. So I guess for you to say, okay, I still want to maybe try to get back where I was, it's like something that drives you in the end, and if you do it well, it will help you for sure. I remember in Lenzerheide, before qualies, where you ended up 9th, you already mentioned it. You were at the start near the gate, and I saw you, and I was like, oh. and then you were like, oh. And then I hugged you, and we kind of like, I don't know, it was a special moment. And I was like, I'll leave you now.
Yeah,
and
you made me tear up. Yeah, that was emotional.
And I think, tell me if I'm wrong, but I feel like when you did your run, you were like focused and everything, blah blah, and then you ended up 9th. And when you crossed the finish, I think then some tears came through your eyes, like doing that first run. Like, how did it feel doing that race run again?
That race run was by far the most hectic thing I've ever done in my life. the emotional roller coaster. And like, this is another thing. I've had to adapt to me not racing how I used to. Like, I was very, very good at getting in the zone and being focused on my run. And that run was actually anything but. From the moment I got out the gate to the last drop, I could not stop thinking. There was like loads of stuff. I was having like a conversation in there like the entire way down. And I even thought like, this is not how you're meant to race. I know you're not meant to race like this. Like, what am I doing? I was like, this is how people must feel when they tell me that they can't get in the zone. And it was just like, like the entire way down. And then before I knew it, I was on like the last corner. And like, I remember getting every section like, oh, I've made it down that section. Oh, I made it down that section. I came around like the last corner and saw the drop. And I was like, there should have been a mic in there because I was like, yes. I was just like, oh my God. And like, I was like, oh, and then I realized what I'd achieved. And then I started crying. And then like, this is like 4 seconds of time maybe. And then I was like, oh no, don't cry now. Because what if you like, I don't know, go over the bars on the last drop or something? Like, you're still not there. I was like, hang on, you can do this. And then, yeah, when I crossed that line, I was just like, oh, I couldn't believe it. I didn't care where I'd got. I just could not believe that I'd done it. Like, I hadn't done a full run really before. I think I did 2 when I like went to Portugal, but yeah, I was just over the moon. And then obviously I saw my dad and Elliot, my manager, and it was crazy. People around me must have thought I was absolutely mad because the cries that were coming out of me were not okay. But then, yeah, I got back and it was funny because I got into the pits and then obviously I did look at my result and weirdly, like I was so proud, but there was still like a little sting somewhere in there. I think obviously Phoebe coming 5th and beating me, I would have loved to be able to fight against her in her first few races, you know, and had fun with her like that. But whatever, I'm on a completely different journey and so is she. So, but hopefully soon we'll be able to, I keep saying to her, I can't wait till we race together because yeah, she's a gem.
Yeah, for sure. And then you stepped it up in semis and Phoebe unfortunately didn't qualify in 11, so you couldn't race each other, but you got 7s in semis and 7s in final, only 2.5 seconds off the box. So I guess that's some great comeback. You must have been pleased with that in the end, even though, of course, you want to try to race for more. But I mean, this is a great first round, I reckon.
Yeah, no, I was stoked. And on the end, I was like, well, I've done three race runs. I've got through a whole weekend without like bullying myself. I felt like the process was there again. I was willing to work. I was willing to take a couple of risks here and there, which was cool. Like that whole new first section off camera. I hadn't ridden that before, so I was quite scared going into that. But I knew I had to push a little bit through there, and yeah, just getting back to work. But I used to love the process of trying to piece together a fast race run. So I was stoked that my race run in finals was actually super focused. So that was just the cherry on top. I couldn't have asked for more really from that week.
We mentioned Leogang as well. You got a really good 5th in quali, so that even a step further as well. And like always, some good splits at the top. You had a big crash in semis, unfortunately, and you're not protected, so you missed finals. But then Phoebe obviously got her first podium, so bittersweet for you. What I want to ask you is also, what do you think about the changes to this season? Like, do you like the semis? What do you think of protection stuff? Like we discussed on a personal basis as well and with the association. But what do you think of all that?
I mean, it's a hard one because I understand where ESO are coming from, for sure. But for me, it was scary because obviously I wasn't race fit. So trying to do, I know people are just like, oh, it's just one extra run. But honestly, those that say that, I don't think have been through the stresses of a World Cup race week. It's It is so intense. You're in your own little bubble, like, and yeah, but in the end I felt like actually, like, once I raced it, I was like, well, I actually don't go very fast in qualies because I feel like I haven't had enough time yet. I'm not ready to go super fast. And then I got another chance in semis and I was like, oh, well, in Lenzerheide, actually, I was exhausted. I couldn't do another run, but I did another run and I did get quicker again. So I was like, shit, maybe this format actually suits me, you know? So I really wanted to, like, give it some more time before making a proper opinion. I feel like I've always kind of said that about the format anyway. Obviously, when they first put it towards us, we were all like, what the hell? Like, we felt like it was taking away a bit of the beauty of our sport, which I feel like a lot of people do agree with. But the protection side of things, I think, is a little bit shit, just because I just feel like there's so many, after this year and after everyone's managed to figure out how they can use the qualies and semis, I just feel like there's a lot of tactics that can be involved, especially with the top guys and girls. And there's not many girls anyway. So for 3 girls to be protected all year round, and they do take up spots I took up Phoebe's spot, even though I was protected in Lenzerheide, I took up a spot and she missed out and she was 11th. And I said to her, if I'd have known, like, I would have pulled over, but you just don't know. So it's a tricky one. I don't agree with the protection, but I feel like the format does have its positives for sure.
So the women's field is really stacked right now. As well as Phoebe, you've got Isabella and Gracie who've come up from junior, and then of course you've got your old four Rachel who's returned. How did it feel seeing her on the top step again at Lenzerheide?
It was cool, actually. When I found out that she was racing, because we have the same physio at home and we see each other quite a lot now. And obviously, in the height of my career, in the height of her career, there was, it was like Red Bull made it out to be Battle of the Titans. Like, there was a lot of tension. But I feel like we've both been through so much that I just felt like I was like, whatever, it's all water under the bridge. Like, I couldn't care less anymore. Like, what she achieved that weekend was amazing. It was incredible. And I knew she was capable of doing it. And I was very excited to see her race. But not only that, from a selfish point of view, I was so happy. I felt like I was missing part of me. It's like Harry Potter and Voldemort. Like, I was just like, I felt like I felt lost without her. Like, it's true. I was like, I didn't have the same motivation. When I was racing Rachel, I was so fired up. Like, she she helped mold the athlete I am, for sure, because for a long time I felt like it was just me and her battling it out at the front. So when I got injured and then she got injured and then I'm friends, at the time I was really close friends with everyone else, and I was like, I don't know, I don't really fancy being these girls, like like we all get on so well. There was no tension for me and I felt like there was no drive. And I know you should only compete against yourself, but it helps when you really want to beat someone.
Yeah, for sure. So how pumped are you for Val d'Isole after your disappointment in Leo again?
I'm, again, like, I can't shake the feeling of being scared. Like, I'm not gonna try and hide that at all, especially Val d'Isole, so gnarly. My body's feeling it a bit after the two weeks. Like I said, I've just pulled my back, so I'm like, great. Can't wait to go down Val d'Isole. Yeah. But I don't know, I'm still like, I'm just hyped to racing. And I was actually thinking yesterday, before I pulled my back, I was like, I really want to get back on track again and just I just want to keep piecing the puzzle, working it out. Like I said, I feel like a new person, so new things work for me. Some of the old stuff doesn't work anymore, and that's all part of the fun, I guess.
Nice. On top of what you've just said there, are there any kind of specific ambitions or goals for the season? Obviously, we've got Fort William hanging there for world champs, and you've won there before, or is it just going to be a take it as it comes kind of approach?
And I can't lie to you guys. It's just the dream would to win world champs at Fort William, but like I said, I'm still on this journey, and what will be will be. But I always guaranteed give 110% effort into my races. So I would, and leading up to that, so I will give everything I have to try and make that happen. But like I said, if it doesn't, then there's plenty more people that are worthy of that title, and I'd be happy for anyone that does.
Cool. Well, good to know you're up for the fight. And then just quickly, having obviously Ollie Zoir join the team, you've mentioned that already. How's he settling?
Yeah, it was crazy. He was like, the first time we met him, it was like he'd been on the team for years. He fit in so well. We were so glad that we held off a bit to sign an elite male. And yeah, he's already done so much for the team, and I feel like he's really, really gelled. So that was obviously the main thing for us, like, because we're like, a tight-knit family and we're all super close. And I feel like it might be quite hard for people to enter that small circle. But yeah, we love Ollie. He's so good. And then not only that, he changed every single component on his bike apart from pedals, I think it was. So we were just like, there's no pressure, dude. And then he went and got second, I think, at the downhill in Rotorua crank work. So we were like, wow, like this is amazing. So yeah, he's fitting really well. Yeah, and he's a great guy. And to be honest, it was really, really nice for me, because I felt like I wasn't just hanging around a bunch of kids anymore. Because I was starting to feel old, like, and I know I'm not old, like, but I was starting to feel really old. And then Ollie's the same age as me, and I feel like he's got a very similar race head. So it's cool for us to chat about that and stuff.
Awesome. And how's brother Chaos getting on as a full-time free rider? Is he enjoying himself?
Well, of course, he doesn't do much, does he? He goes to Whip Off every year, turns up to some backyard battles. No, he puts a lot of effort in, bless him. He's loving it. He just won Whip Off, actually, I think.
Oh, brilliant.
Whilst I was here, Chaos got first and Cade got third.
Nice.
But no,
nice.
He's loved the change. He's been wanting to do it for years, but wasn't quite sure if he could earn any money doing that. I think he felt like he would have FOMO away from the races, but also at the same time felt trapped in that environment. So I think he feels, like the world has lifted from his shoulders, and it's nice to see him thrive in that environment, because that's where he belongs, I think.
Yeah, cool.
Before we let you go, let's talk about kits. The kit that you wore in Lords 2022 is, hands down, the best kit I've ever seen. The pink and orange.
You'd look nice in that, George.
Oh, me in a tequila sunrise. It even matched the bike as well. Did you have much input into that one?
Yeah, we designed that one because we were told that we were having orange fox forks, and obviously me, who's like loves pink, as we all know, I was just like, this is a nightmare. Like, how am I going to make this work? But in the end, it worked so well. Yeah, I can't remember. I have a lot of input into my kits, which is amazing. They give me so much freedom. Usually I just send over a mood board. They get some mock-ups done. I'll be like, yes, no, or this needs changing. I don't like this. Can we put more of this? And we work really well together. And then we matched the bike to it, and it all worked so, so well. And I was actually sad, obviously, I only got to run it for 1 year. Yeah. And the orange grew on me a lot, and I love it now.
Well, you've just launched another one with Fox, another collection. And tell us a bit about how you do the mood boards, and then they send some stuff back to you, and then where does it go from there?
Well, usually the kits are actually made like 2 years in advance.
Wow.
So by the time it comes to production, we're so bored of it. And I hate to say it, I'm just like, I don't think I like it anymore. And then I start panicking. I'm like, are people going to think it's like looks old, or like, and they always remind me, like, don't worry, like we've said it as well, this always happens, like, don't worry. To them, they've never seen it, so it's going to, like, the first time we finally nailed it, that's how they're going to feel. But with that one, actually, I wanted something to look super futuristic. I felt like from all the catwalks I was seeing in fashion, that's kind of the way it was heading. So that was kind of the main topic of it. And then they actually said, oh, well, funny you say that, we've got a few mock-ups already of stuff like that. And that was one of them. And then that one, actually, out of all the ones we've done together, required the least amount of work. It was just like that. We loved it straight away. We were just like, yeah, let's go in.
Cool.
So yeah, not like the one that's coming next year. We're working a lot on that one.
You never get two easy
No.
ones in a row.
No.
Okay, so one last thing for me. I've mentioned it before. I always called you the queen of the first sector. It's actually quite like mind-blowing to me. And I looked at your result of this year. And even though they were like a little bit under what you're doing in 2020 or 2021, you're still faster than your end result in the first splits. How do you do that? Like, is there something, how can you explain that? I really wonder.
Well, I used to, if you look back from when like I first started racing elites, I would always win the last sector and my first sector would be shocking. And Dad would have a go at me all the time saying that I had to get into the race run sooner. And I think that kind of stuck with me a bit, to be honest, I'm not gonna lie. But also I think as I've got older and like my routine works for me, and you know, Emmy, like all week I'm pretty chill, like not much is bothering me. You know, I don't know. As soon as I get in the gate, something just switches. Like it's just go time for me, and I think that's when I'm most focused. And as I start to go down the run, I relax a little bit more, and maybe I'm not as focused. And usually, I think out the gate it's power, isn't it? It's power and like it's instinct because everyone's adrenaline's so high. I think that's where a lot of people make their mistakes. And they get better as they go down. But I think I'm the opposite. That's where I thrive the most, like in a high pressure, high adrenaline environment. I love it. Like I just go into the flow state. So there's no secret really, but you can tell Cammy that.
She's in that wardrobe behind that.
Yeah,
She just
I
got
can
the...
see her peeking fruit now.
She's over there.
Well, look, thanks for making the time to come on the pod and for missing Whip Off and for talking so candidly about the concussion. It's great to see you back racing, but more importantly, it's great to see that you've got the love for it back. I really hope you can enjoy the rest of the season and have a lot of fun.
Oh, thanks so much. Thanks for having me again.
Bye.
Pleasure.
See ya.
See ya. We'll be back with Roger Viera after these messages. So this season, I wanted to follow a couple of riders who haven't got factory support, riders who are trying to make it happen no matter what. And the first of those riders we're going to be chatting with is Roger Viera. Welcome to the show, Roger. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm very well. Thank you very much for the opportunity to be here. Much appreciated. Obviously, been listening to the podcast for a while now, and I was asked it when I was going to be able to tell my story and be in the podcast. So it's quite cool to have the opportunity to be here. So thanks.
Cool. So tell me a little bit about where you are right now.
We just have a week between the last race, which was Leogang and Val d'Isole. So we decided to stay out here in Europe. So I'm in the border between Austria and Switzerland, and very close to Italy. So we're just on our way to Italy at the minute. I'm with Luke Williamson. We've been traveling together, and we're gonna race a race this weekend in Italy as well, Italian Cup. So that should be interesting.
Cool. So for anyone who didn't catch the Fort William episode where we spoke, give us a reminder of what happened in the off season, because it didn't go to plan really, did it?
I lost my job, and then just 2 weeks before that, I had my garage broken into. They stole my motocross bike, my e-bike, and then 2 weeks after that, obviously, I was working for More Large, and then obviously riding for them as well. So, they supported us to get to the World Cups. Like they used to lend a van to us, so we could get around and go to the bike park and go practice to all everywhere around the UK. And the company just went under, without any notice. Just turned up to work one day, and they just said he went into administration, and pretty much lost my job, and my biggest supporter in my racing as well. So, but luckily enough, all the suppliers, the sponsors that were sponsoring me, they backed me up and kept me rolling. So we are here representing it then.
Cool. And you're working for E13 now, is that right?
Yeah, as well. Yeah. So yeah, with all that, then E13, also gave me the opportunity to work for them, which is pretty cool. It's because it's so hard. Like obviously you have a lot of jobs out there, but to find a job where it lets you have the flexibility to race. Because like example now, I'm 4 weeks out without working, and yeah, it's really hard to find that job. And luckily enough, like E13 understands like the racing, and they are happy for me to have all that time off and be out here racing. So yeah, it's pretty unique opportunity, and really grateful for that. So yeah.
Cool. So as you just said there, quite a few changes for you in the winter, and one of those changes has been the bike that you're riding. Tell us a little bit about what bike you're on and how that deal's come about.
In the last year and probably the start of this season, I was obviously riding for with a Specialized bike, just Specialized frame. Probably been riding with that for the past 2-3 years, and we Masters had this idea of the privateer project to have a different thing going on for this season, and I've been talking with him like for probably like since end of last season about this opportunity to ride the GT bike and have like full support of Factor Team on the first round. But obviously, I wanted to make sure I had the bike early enough so I could actually do some races on it before I went to the World Cups, and obviously some testing. It was really like till the last minute, like to get the frame. Like I was leaving to go to France for Singletrack training, and the bike arrived on a Monday. Like it was like super tight, but like we managed to get these deals sorted, and now I'm riding GT frame, and then I also had like the support from the guys on the first round and also in the second one in semifinals, which was quite cool. But yeah, the bike is amazing. Obviously, I felt fast like from the get-go with the bike. I mean, you were there and you saw me riding, and like I felt good, but obviously, like I noticed there's a difference when I raced the bike in four-wheeling to feel fast on the bike and actually race fast on the bike. So it took me, a few practice days and a few races to actually get like comfortable like with race speed on the bike. And obviously like setup wise as well, like you need to change quite a few things to make the bike like race fast. So but yeah, now it seems like we are in the right track, and feeling great.
Can I just interrupt there? I can picking up like a bit of like rustling. Is it? I don't know if it's like coming on your mic or if it's just like when you're talking. Just you're not like rubbing your hands or rubbing your feet together or anything like that. No,
I do have fun on though.
Oh, it might be that. Yeah. Is there any chance you just flick it off?
I'm gonna start sweating out.
Yeah, we'll see how we go from there.
Just really, that t-shirt will be black. That's sweating. Okay.
Is that better?
Yeah. That's loads better. Thank you.
So am I right in thinking that the GT is a little bit bigger than the Specialized you were on before, Roger? And do you feel like now you've got it set up to a point where you're happy with, or are you still working on things?
Yeah, on the paper, when you look at reach wise, the GT is only 5 mil longer than the Specialized, but the reason it felt so much bigger is because the actual top tube of the bike is 15 mil longer.
Okay.
And then the seat tube is like 10 mil shorter. So, but I managed to get a 45 mil stem on the bike, which bring the reach to the same as the Specialized. And it feels good now. It like when you're riding, it feels short, but like when you stand like sat on the bike, it kind of feels big because the top tube is a bit like longer than the Specialized. But yeah, now it's pretty good.
Makes sense. So before we went away for the World Cups, you were third at the first Pierce race behind Matt Walker and Jordan Williams, two names that I think everybody has heard of. So that was a really, really good result for you before we went away. Was that a good confidence boost?
Yeah, 100%. Obviously, I know I had raced a lot on the new bike. I only had raced in Fort William. So, and I did good there, but my expectation for that race was to do a lot better than what I did. So my confidence was quite low because I struggled all week. Couldn't find the right setup for the bike, and yeah, just couldn't link together on race day, and yeah, just ended up like 27th or something like that. So I wasn't happy with that, and obviously had the opportunity to race this Spirit Cycle race, and yeah, obviously my goal was to be top 3 because I knew like Matt and Jordan was there, and then I had like Luke there, Joe as well. They were good riders, so I thought if I had a top 3, it would be like a really positive result. So
Best
managed to,
kind of thing.
yeah, managed to do that, and obviously, yeah, that was like a big boost confidence. Like then, it kind of like it was what I needed just before going to the World Cup, because then I knew like the bike works, the bike is fast, and like I'm in pace, so like everything was kind of in the right track to go and do well. So yeah, definitely was massive.
So moving on to the last 2 weeks, then round 1 at Lenzerheide, you were under the GT tent with Wynn's new privateer program, getting the full factory experience. One of my good friends, Trev, was the mechanic for you that week. Shout out to Trev. How was it for you? Was it good?
Yeah, it was like really, really good. Obviously, I never have a mechanic. Like I guess like loads of privateer riders normally do have a mechanic. Like they have someone there that can help them. And like unfortunately, I never like have anyone that like is there to like actually do the mechanic for me. So like just having that alone was like massive. Just like being able to sit down like in the bike, like in the chair, and then just look Trev working on my bike. At the start, to be honest, I was quite like scared because like I know every single bolt on my bike that needs to be checked, and like like when you do it, you've done it, but like trusting someone else to do on my bike, I was like a bit like, oh, it's like I had to like go run through with him like every single bolt that like needed to be checked, even though like he probably would do it, but it was just like, yeah, I was like just like, oh, like I didn't know him as well, so like, but yeah, then he was great, and like, yeah, the bike was faultless all week.
Probably didn't help that I told you on the first day to keep an eye on him because he's always.
Yeah, I knew you were joking. Yeah, exactly. That was great. And then obviously not just that, but like they also have like a catering that brings food all the time. So that was quite big as well. Cause like one, I was saving money in food, which is massive, especially in Switzerland.
Yeah.
And then 2, like I didn't need to go to shop, or I didn't need to go to the restaurant and choose like try to translate the menu and try to find something I have. Like it was like every day I knew I would have at that time of the day a health food, like right there in the pits. Like that was like quite big as well. And then obviously just like everyone there was like quite nice and like made me feel like I was part of the team, and it was just really good and great.
This is exactly why I wanted to start this feature, because it's just highlighting, what the riders who don't have that support, what they have to think about, as well as racing the bike in the weekend.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's just like little things that you don't like. Probably no one thinks about it, but it just makes a massive difference in the end.
Huge.
Like,
yeah,
definitely. Well, it clearly worked because you were 20th in the qualifying with a really, great time. How did you feel coming off the back of that quali?
Yeah, no, I mean, I was surprised when I crossed the line because I had done like a GoPro run just before I did my quali run, and I had done like a 3:54 on the GoPro, and I was really happy with that time. I was like, oh, this is probably gonna like make like I will qualify safely. Looking into the junior times, I thought that was great. And then when I came down, obviously I was pushing, but I had quite a few mistakes at the top that like when I crossed the line, like I had a solid bottom, but quite a few mistakes at the top. And when I crossed the line, I wasn't sure if that run was faster than the practice run. And when I looked at the time, like he was 5 seconds faster than that run. But if you asked me, like in the finish line before I see my time, I would never say that run was 5 seconds faster. So it was quite surprising. Like, yeah, like a good surprise lesson, like a very good surprise.
I think that just illustrates how much everybody's having to step it up nowadays. You know, as you say, you didn't think for a minute you'd gone that much faster, but under the pressure of the new system and how many people are in there, you've got to send it to get in there, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think like it was just like I was making mistakes, but I never like my pace never dropped. Like I stayed like super consistent. But if you look at my splits at the top, I was quite slow. But then at the bottom, like I was like really fast. Like the splits were really good. So yeah.
So you went on to flat in semis at the top. Were you happy leaving Lenzerheide, knowing that the pace was there, or did you leave Lenzerheide a little bit annoyed that you'd not got a chance to, do your best race?
Yeah, I think you would, like, no one would ever leave it like feeling completely happy. Like obviously I was happy like that I got top 20. I knew the speed was there. But like, as you know, for all the factory teams and everyone that's out there, they will all think, oh, maybe that was just a lucky run. It just like, even because my time in qualifier for top 20 wouldn't even go to finals, to send to finals. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like you need to prove that you can do in semis and then you can do in finals, and then someone will take you serious. Otherwise, it's like not points. So like I know that, and in back of my head, I was thinking like, damn it, like that was the opportunity, like to show like everyone that I can do it. And yeah, I felt a bit like bummed that I couldn't like put the run I wanted to put like in semi. But at the same time, like a flat tire, like it's not really, it is my fault, but it's not really like, you know what I mean? Like it's a bit of unlucky. Yeah, it just happens. And yeah, it's better than have a crash, because then a crash, like it's like you felt the pressure, or you just went too fast or something like that. But
there was a guy in Lenzerheide, his name's not coming to me right now. You guys might have heard of him, but he had 2 punctures, didn't he, in 2 important runs.
Yeah.
So if it happens to him, it can happen to anyone, right?
But yeah, a lot of people had a flat as well in semi, so that kind of helped as well. Because I think Matt Walker flatted, and Greg, just like you say, flat as well. So yeah.
Did Greg only have 2, or did he have 3 flats?
2.
I think he had 3.
Did he have one in quali as well?
I thought he flatted in quali as well.
No, I think he was
maybe not
just behind Dan in quali. I think he may have had an issue, but he definitely had flats in semis and finals, like full flats. Whereas quali, it might have been a slow one. I can't remember. So Roger, you've got this a little bit of a reputation now on the circuit of being this guy who spots these. They're not just extraordinary lines, but they're lines that people are kind of respecting a lot, and a lot of the time you see not just yourself on them, but the top riders as well. Talk us through how you're finding these lines so early in practice, because you're usually on them before anyone else. What's the tactic? What's the technique?
I don't know really, because for me it's so like normal, and then people started to tell me that I'm always in different lines, but for me, like, everyone was on those lines anyway. But then now that I know, I'm looking at track walk differently, like trying to purposely find in like different lines. But I don't know if that is good, because it's great to have like these all good lines, but then like at the end I'm asking myself, well, maybe like the main line with confidence will be faster. And like as a privateer, I don't have anyone in the hill looking at lines for me, so I don't know if the lines I'm doing are actually faster than the normal line, or another line that a rider is doing. But back to your question, I think like, it kind of took me by surprise that everyone thinks that, but it's not really like a game thing that I play or anything like that. I just track walk, look at the track, and I kind of just try to think outside the box and try to use the whole track inside the tape, like like to my favor. Like if it's a bunk, like I love riding up in the bunk, like to open a corner or something like that. So just try. I just try to be wise when I'm doing track walk.
Yeah,
I've just remembered.
Oh, sorry, go on, Josh.
No, I've just remembered. We track walked at Bala together, and you showed me that line off as you come up off the bus stops at the top. That the double, and you said you want to hit that on the left hand side there where no tire tracks are, because you'll get more boost and you'll land perfect for the corner. And you kept asking me all weekend if I'd done it, and I didn't see you after Sunday, but I did it on Sunday.
Yeah,
I got over that double. I did. Yeah, it did work. Yeah. So thank you for that one. Yeah. I just realised I never spoke to you again after that. Every time you asked me, I was like, no, I haven't done it yet.
That's good. That's good to hear.
You haven't got your own line spotter, but if you keep doing what you're doing, you're certainly going to keep confusing everyone else's line spotters. So I think it's a good tactic.
Yeah, true that.
Because I've tried some of your lines and they don't work for me. I'm a mainline with confidence guy. So yeah, you've confused me a few times. It works.
That's good then. Maybe I should do it more.
Oh, you can ask me for some lines. Maybe I'm the neutral. And now are you still going to be on GT for the next round as well?
No, it was just for the first round. And then because Taylor got hurt in Leogang, they kind of pulled me back in the program for semifinals. But yeah, it was just a one round race really.
Are you gonna ride Conti tires though?
Nope, sorry.
So no line spottings for you. Roger, on to Leogang. Tell us a bit about who you've been traveling with and who you've been stopping with, like between the races and stuff so far.
So I was lucky enough that my brother was working for Sunter in Lenzerheide and Leogang, so I got a lift with him to Lenzerheide, and then obviously Lenzerheide I stayed with the GT crew, so I had also accommodation sorted there as well, which was pretty good. And then in Leogang, obviously drove with my brother to Leogang as well, and then luckily Sunter let me stay on their truck, so I slept in the truck for the whole week in Leogang, which I mean it was quite good because I was waking up like already in the pits, so I was pitting with them as well, me and Blanky, and then now my brother. Well, we had 2 days of shooting for O'Neill in Schladming just at the start of this week, and then my brother now went back to UK, and I'm with Luke now. He's driving me around. Well, we're driving around each other kind of thing. So Luke Williamson. Because I don't have a van, I don't have anything like out here. So yeah, me and Luke are just plugging around. We already had to rescue twice. We had to rescue him twice. He let the car, the battery of the car ran flat like twice already. And we had to push it. But
what?
Yeah, we're here.
Nice. I believe you had a little bit of a rough start to the week in Leogang with a crash coming into the woods on the first day of practice. Is that right?
Yeah. Like I did the first run and like I felt so good and probably too good. Like I was like obviously cruising down to see how the track was, but like I felt like really good and like felt quite fast in a few sections, and I tried to put some kind of pace straight away in second run, like just try to ride a little bit faster and push a bit more in some sections. And that specific section, like the way I remembered is when it was like grass, loamy, big, deep rut, and you could come like flying and you wouldn't go anywhere. And I kind of tried to do the same, but now they kind of resurfaced the ground, and it's like just like a gravel ground, and the rut is like really shallow. It's not deep at all. And then I came into it too hot. I had to brake in the middle of the rut, and then my front wheel I got unbalanced my front wheel went over the rut and then just went into loose dirt, and that was it. Lost my front end, and then I was in the ground. So that was probably my mistake for trying to go too fast too early. But yeah, that knocked a lot of my confidence, and also like gave me a pretty big swallow thumb that made me feel uncomfortable, weak, and also like it was struggling to grip grip on the handlebars and stuff. So yeah.
Yeah, it's annoying. That section like surprised a lot of people. I've seen a couple of crashes. There's people just braking and get down the rut. So yeah,
I crashed there in practice as well. Just missed time braking, washed the rear
That's
end.
what you get to transforming a forest ground into a car park.
Yeah,
that's the problem.
My only crash of the week in Leogang was on that exact same corner. So I feel you.
Yeah, so we talked about. Sorry. Yeah.
No, go on.
We talked about the weather a little bit already in the previous part of this podcast. In Leogang, there was like a big storm on Friday, and you got P14 in quali. So I guess you got a bit lucky with the weather. But you must have been delighted with that result, because sometimes you get lucky, sometimes you get less lucky.
Yeah. Obviously, when I was about to go to my race, because obviously you start thinking like what's going to happen, and it was raining a lot, and then it stopped raining and the sun came out, and I just thought, well, again, like we're going to get the track wet, and then the other guys will get the track dry. But it was the opposite. It dried up. We I think 10 riders went down, and I was one of them. The track was it was pretty dry. Like in the top section in the woods, it had like a few patches where it was a bit wet, but nothing like major. And then the storm came back again, and the rain never stopped all day. So, I mean, when I crossed the line, I knew by time that I wouldn't qualify, and I knew I had pretty much fucked up my run. So I did pretty good at the top, and then once I got into the woods and saw a little patch of wet ground that looked like ice, I panicked, and then I rode the whole woods section like I squeed, like really slow and cautious, and then I crossed the line, and then I was pretty disappointed, for I was not going to make it. And then pretty much from that point on, started raining, and I was on the live thing, looking rider by rider, and no one was beating me, and I think 4 of the riders managed to beat me in the wet, which showed how slow I was in the dry. And I was oh dear. And then I ended up finishing 14th. So yeah, I was happy to made it through, but I knew it wasn't kind of fair, and it wasn't but I guess it was out of my control, and I got lucky, and I'll take it.
For sure. You got 38th in the semi-final, so only 1.4 second of making the final. Yeah, it sounds like nothing, but 1.4 is just how hard is it to make that jump? It's literally another level this year.
Yeah, it definitely everything started. If you look at the times, it's crazy. Even in finals, if you look between that 301 302 mark, I think it had 10 riders. It was pretty crazy. I think it was Jordan finished 13th or something like that, and he was literally a second off the podium. So yeah, everyone is riding really, really fast, and anything that it happens, if you have a mistake or anything, it will definitely affect your weekend. But going back to my semi-final run, because of the crash, that semi-final run was the only run that I actually kind of felt fast on track, because I went 8 seconds faster from quali to semi, and the condition of the track was pretty similar. It was a bit wetter, but not major. And that was the first time that I actually felt confident again back in the bike and managed to attack, which probably was too late. But yeah, it is what it is.
Yeah, so Val di Sal is coming. You 23rd last year, so I guess you're hungry for it.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I really like Valdsoli. I had like really good results there. And like last year, I've qualified 18th, and then I was like going back to weather. Like last year, it rained, and I literally, when I came down in the rain, I came down like literally after the rain, and then that like I got a wet track as well, and then managed to gain a 23rd, which was like pretty big as well. So yeah, definitely keen for it, and yeah, can't wait.
Now that you had a couple of races this year, what do you think of the new format? Like, do you like the semi-final?
Yeah, it's different. Like I still can like really say it much because I didn't go through final, because for me till now I only been to semi-final, so everything felt like qualify final for me at the moment. But when I was warming up in semi-final in Lenzerheide, and like like you up the hill, like you doing your arm up process, you're thinking about the track, you have all that pressure, and I just for one moment I just thought, fuck, like I'm gonna need to do this again in like a couple hours. Like it felt like really like mentally, not physically, but mentally, like quite a lot to do in one day. But I guess you just get used to it. But yeah, that's what I felt about the new format, even though I didn't go through finals yet. But yeah.
Cool. Well, let's end the show with some predictions for Val di Sole. One name from each of you. Winner, elite man.
Steve's going to kill me. But that run, I didn't watch the race because we were traveling home, and I think it was on Pink Bike or somewhere anyway. I caught it might have been YouTube summary, and I caught the 3 runs from Jackson, Loic, and Andy. And that run of Jackson's was incredible. And the way he changed gear and pedaled into the air, gapping into the woods in the spot where Rogers just described his crash.
Yep.
Like, for anyone who's ridden that section, like you're all on to like keep the bike tracking and make the gap to where he landed. But to have the composure to be shifting gears and pedaling is just fucking astounding. So apart from his one mistake, he looked like he was a cut above the rest. So yeah, I think Jordan's kind of fueled him up, hasn't he, with that win he took in Lenzerheide. So yeah, I'm going to Angus Steve. I'm going to put my money on Jackson and Val di Sole.
Ooh. Emily?
Andras Kolb.
Hobby again.
Ooh.
Not a bad bet. Not a bad bet.
He was so good last year. Like it wasn't like I watched practice. He was doing line and nobody was doing. So I'm hoping he could do the same.
Yeah. Because back it up.
Yeah, I mean, both of them that Jack and Emily said are big contenders, and probably will do really well. But I will put my money into Laurie. I think
I knew you were going to say.
I mean,
good shout. Good shout.
He's done really well in the past there, and yeah, it seems like he's on fire this season. So
he's hungry this year.
Yeah, I'll put my money on him.
I'm gonna go very safe and go Loic. I was gonna go Loris, but then I Loic. Yeah.
Come
on, you said he's not going to win any races this year as long as he gets second and win the overall. Now you pick him as your winner.
He'll win one.
He'll win.
Okay, one.
It'll be in Scotland.
You think he's going to win worlds?
Imagine.
He'll come second and third at all the World Cups and he'll win worlds. You get good odds on that.
Winner, elite women.
Beware.
I'm not playing this game twice. Cammy.
You going Cammy?
I am genuinely going to go Cam. Actually, I think she's going to be pissed off having not won one yet and leading the overall, and I think she's going to come out punching.
I was thinking about this as well. I think Valley's been on the podcast 3 times, and I think in 3 times she's told us that she hates Val di Sole. So
she didn't even try last year, did she? She was just happy she'd won the overall and rolled down. So, but yeah, that's not why I'm picking it.
Well, she still got 3rd, so it's not that bad. But yeah,
no. You know what? She wasn't trying for the win.
I'll go Cammy as well. Roger,
careful, Rog. She spits fire.
I need to say something different now.
Be it on your head.
I would say Nina.
Okay.
Good job.
Yeah, I mean she crashed, didn't she, in the last round? Yeah, she seemed to be in pace, and I'm sure she'll be hungry to put a solid one into Vauxhall. So
definitely a good.
Oh, Roger, you should be on a Santa Cruz bike. You always choosing Santa Cruz rider. What's up?
Syndicate.
Sending out subliminal messages to the syndicate. Excellent. Well, thanks for joining us, Roger. Best of luck in Val di Sole, and we'll catch up with you again later in the season, maybe after Worlds, which isn't that far away.
No, I'll be keen for it. And yeah, thank you very much for the opportunity. And yeah, thank you.
Cool. And that's it for another episode. And what an episode that was. Thanks to the sponsors of the show, Hope Technology, JTech Suspension, Revolution Bike Park, Ride Southern Spain, Schwalbe, and SingleTrackWorld.com. As always, if you're enjoying the podcast, please subscribe so you don't miss an episode. And if you've got a second, please drop us a review. Alternatively, please give us a follow on Instagram at Making Up the Numbers Racing or Facebook.com/Making Up the Numbers. Thanks for listening. We'll be back with another episode after Val di Sole.